All sports, all the time.
There's heroes and there's legends. Heroes get remembered. Legends never die.
This is the Spoken Podcast.
Hold your ears, folks. It's showtime.
I'm your host, Lance Twidwell.
Man, that kid, he can ball, man. He can ball.
Touchdown, Kansas City!
Patrick freaking Mahomes, baby!
Let's talk some sports, because that's what we're here to do.
You are tuned in to The Spoken.
This is the Spoken Podcast. I'm your host, Lance Twidwell, here inside the Starcade Media Studios with my guy, Trevor Twidwell.
What's good?
Episode 230 is in full swing, full motion. We're so happy to be here with you and for you to be here with us. Whether you are live streaming, whether you are podcasting, or whether you are YouTubing, we want to thank you so much for taking the time to be with us. And this time, as we have, yet again, no surprise to anybody, this is not breaking news, a jam-packed, fun-filled show for you guys today because we have a lot to get to. We have a lot to discuss. Guys, we're going to talk a lot of Chiefs today because we are in the midst of the preseason season, if you will. This is not exactly my favorite time of the NFL season. We try to have to rough through these times and just hope that the team gets out of it healthy. But we're still going to discuss and recap a little bit of the Chiefs-Saints game from last week. We're going to give you a little bit of what we're looking for in the Chiefs-Cardinals game this week. We're going to talk about how I was 100% correct when it came to the Justin Ross hype. We're going to talk a little bit about the situations that we have at certain positions on the team as the team starts to get ready to make their cuts. I think they have a little over 90 guys on the roster right now. They got to get down to 53 before week one. Trevor and I are going to start giving you slowly. We're going to matriculate some of our predictions as to what we see for positional battles, who we see winning, things like that. Those are going to be happening in the next week or so, but we're going to give you guys a lot of our thoughts about that today. We're going to get to you guys and speak it. Every single week has been awesome with you guys in the chats. Get on our YouTube channel right now if you're watching this, if you're listening to it. Hit subscribe, hit the notification button, hit the like button. Also, that helps us out big time. But most importantly, if you guys want to help us out the most, get in the comments. Hit us up. Let us know what your guys' takes and questions are, and we will get those on the show. We will talk to you as much as we possibly can on this episode and every single episode. But get those in now so we can get you guys in order, man. We can start throwing those things out in rotation. We love hearing from you guys. We had some regulars now. We got a ton of regulars now, but we're looking for some new people as well. So spread the word, guys. Let them know what we're doing here at the Spoken Podcast every Saturday at 11 o'clock a.m. Central Time, and we greatly appreciate it. Before I get to my first topic, before we get to Lance Rants, if you will, I did want to make a mention that earlier this last week, I hung out with our guys, Mike and Steve Williams from All Chiefed Up podcast, and Haley Lewis as well, who's now working with the Big 12 Network, but she's done a ton of work. She actually works with KCSN and a couple other local networks as well. And it was an absolute blast. Went out to Blue Springs at Zarda Barbecue, met a ton of fans out there. A lot of them were fans from the All Chiefed Up podcast. We really got to just band together and have a nice little dinner and community situation with everybody there. Haley was incredible. Mike and Steve, this is the first time we actually hung out. And it was funny, too, because I was telling Haley and Steve and Mike afterwards that it was like a bunch of high school friends catching up for the first time in years. And even though this is the first time any of us hung out together, it was literally the first time I've met any of these people in person, and it was just a blast. It's like we just didn't miss a beat, even though we were never on beat to begin with in person. And it just shows the power of not only social media, but the power of a community like the Chiefs Kingdom, if you will. People like to call it that. I just call it people that love the same team and get together and enjoy great Kansas City barbecue. And for everybody that went out there, I got to meet one of our most faithful viewers, Brian Parrott. Yeah. Awesome guy. Came up and shook his hand, met his lovely wife as well. And just meeting the supporters, meeting you guys is just something that I very much always look forward to, and it's something I love. And the fact that you guys care about our show and that you want to be with us and take part in this, it is the most humbling experience I've ever had doing this now with, the Spoken's been around for almost 13 years. I never take it for granted. I never look at it and take it lightly. I just appreciate every single one of you guys. That was a blast this last week, and I can't wait to do that again. And if you guys are not already following All Chiefed Up on YouTube and on all the social media platforms, please change that today. Mike and Steve are incredible talents, awesome dudes, humble dudes, and they had so much more in common because Trevor and I are brothers as well. They're brothers. They're not far apart in age. Trevor and I are only 14 months apart in age, so there was a lot of very relatable aspects to our brotherhoods, if you will, and it was just really cool to kind of catch up and get to know them a little bit better as people, getting to know you guys as well. So if you're watching, if you're listening to this and you're a part of that, you know what I'm talking about.
Brian said he's got pics. He said he needs your email or something to send you pics.
It sounds good, man. We're looking forward to it. I will send that to you after the show. Brian, thank you so much for already being here, man. We definitely love having you here already, man. You're ready. You're first in line, first to go, man, and we'll definitely get to you in the chats as well. But I want to start with something today that is something we're starting every single show, it seems like, with until this thing is resolved, and it's with Chris Jones. And it's not necessarily our take on the Chris Jones situation as it is, because we know it's really gone nowhere since last week when we did our last episode 229. But I want to talk about what we're hearing from the people that Chris Jones matters the most to. As we know, this is the second year now for Joe Cullen, the defensive line coach that came from the Jacksonville Jaguars, that we knew was a massive upgrade for defensive line coaching this last year, and you saw the immediate impact this man had. The Chiefs went from one of the worst pass rushing teams to one of the best. And I don't think that's going to change anytime soon, because Joe Cullen really knows how to access the talent, young and old, guys in the middle, as best as anybody, about as good as anybody in the entire NFL can. I think this dude is a defensive coordinator in the waiting. I think he's going to be the guy that maybe ultimately succeeds Steve Spagnuolo, if in fact that happens anytime soon. Excuse me. But I want to play a real quick snippet for you guys from what Joe Cullen had said at practice this last week when it came to the questions he was inbounding from Chiefs media when it came to Chris Jones and when he's expecting Chris Jones to return to camp.
Chris is not here right now. He talked so much about how much you helped him last year. What's this defense if you don't have him for a while? I mean, how much of a hole is that for you?
Well, I would say this, Chris, in my opinion, was as good, if not the best defensive player in the league last year. And I do stay in touch with Chris. I was expecting a million questions on Chris, and Chris is working hard, and, we'll welcome him with open arms when he gets back here.
What do you hear from him?
Well, just like I said, I talked to him about him staying in shape, and, eventually this thing will get done, and he'll be back here in camp, back here at practice and leading us.
Okay, so that's a really short snippet of what Joe Cullen had said. And the reason why I feel this is such a significant piece of audio is because of the fact that we know that Andy Reid's been one of the only few people outside of Patrick Mahomes that's really talked about Chris Jones. And if we know Andy Reid at all, we know that this man doesn't exactly go into detail about anything. He likes to keep everything very secretive, very close to the vest. He doesn't like to give things away. He doesn't like for people to have to, he doesn't want to give you any material, basically. He wants everybody just to speculate on their own terms.
Yep.
Well, Joe Cullen decided to talk a little bit about it, and I think that even though that was about a 40-second clip, I feel that Joe Cullen said a lot in those 2-3 responses. The first thing he says about Chris Jones is he thinks he's probably the best defensive player in the league. Now, a defensive coach doesn't say something like that in the midst of a contract dispute unless he feels this man's worthy of the money he's asking for. Because if you're trying to take this, I'm not saying that Joe Cullen is taking sides here, but it kind of felt like he did in this regard, because of the fact that when you know that the team is trying to not lowball Chris, but try to get him more on a team-friendly deal, saying something like that only helps Chris Jones's case. If he was to say, like, we really like Chris, and, we hope that he can come here and help contribute, to another Super Bowl victory to help us, continue success, that would be more on the Chiefs side of things, where it's, well, we're going to be fine with or without him. That's not what he did here. He's singling out Chris Jones, helping the media continue these types of conversations, because I know that the dispute has been who's going to win in the end between Chris Jones and the Chiefs. Because the further we go into this, the further apart they seem. And so I don't think Joe Cullen did the team any favors in this. And I actually agree with Joe Cullen on this, because this is what we have been talking about here ad nauseum, Trevor, when it comes to what side we're really on this. And more times than not, even though I am a Chiefs fan first, I take the players' side on these things more times than not, because I understand that a lot of these players are underpaid in comparison to what they bring, both in production and in monetary funds, to the franchise, to the league. And Chris Jones is one of those guys that I think that although he did get a nice extension 3 or 4 years ago, he has outplayed that extension, which is why he's so adamant about getting that next big payday and making even more substantial money than he did 3-4 years ago. And I think he's earned every single cent of it. And I've been telling you guys, I've been telling Trevor, I've been telling everybody, this man is worth every single penny. And Joe Colin, to me, sounds like a man that knows that all too well. Now, when it comes to the other parts of this, talking about staying in shape, and I've been talking to Chris, that means that they obviously have been staying in contact when it comes to where are you at physically, where are you at mentally. To me, that's been my biggest concern. It hasn't been whether I think Chris Jones is ever going to play for the Chiefs again. Yeah. It's, is he going to be physically and mentally ready and prepared for week 1? That's the biggest question I've had. Now, I give Chris Jones the benefit of the doubt in this one, even though this is my biggest worry. Because of the fact that Chris Jones has never given me a reason to believe he doesn't take this shit seriously 24/7, every single day, every single hour of the day. This man is a very disciplined athlete. He's stayed in shape every single year. We've never had to worry about him coming in and not taking things seriously, even before he got his money last time and even after he got it. Because I remember in 2020, after the Chiefs won the Super Bowl and after Chris Jones got his extension, a lot of people were concerned about whether Chris Jones was going to take football seriously and still have that hunger, still have that drive. This man ended up having one of probably the best 3-year stretch of his career by far. So I think that is something that we have to pay attention to even more so than even the contract. But I am on the side of I'm not worried that Chris Jones could come in here and miss all of training camp, miss all of preseason, and still be an effective all-pro type player week 1. I'm really not concerned about that whatsoever. But that is the biggest concern at this point, if you ask me. And then Joe Colin at the end of it talks about how he's expecting this to get done. What we're talking about, I'm fully aware that Joe Colin is fully aware that he thinks this contract extension is going to get done. Maybe Joe Colin is in the inner circle of knowing where they're at exactly at this time. Maybe he's not. We don't really know. Maybe they've kept this in-house between Andy Reid, Brett Veach, and Clark Hunt and Chris Jones' representation. But as we were talking, Trevor, this week with a couple of our friends and one of our younger brothers, this is a situation that goes deeper than Chris Jones. We know that the Katz family, the Katz brothers, are his agency. Mm-hmm. They represent about 7-8 other Chiefs players right now. Now, there's nobody really of other like a severe magnitude, like as far as key players on this roster. There's some fringe players on this roster that are represented by the Cats. But this situation goes deeper than Chris, because once Chris gets his contract extension, which you and I are both expecting to take place, it's going to be a trickle-down effect for these other players that are represented by the same agency to get these deals done with the Chiefs if the Chiefs are interested in getting these extensions done with other players or signing them to long-term deals. Or elsewhere, exactly. So this is something, Chris Jones is 100% the meal ticket here when it comes to these other players. So Chris Jones is a larger embodiment and representation than just himself and his future wealth and things of that nature. So the Chiefs are very much dealing with a bigger situation than maybe we anticipated to begin with. So I look at these Joe Colin comments, and I think he's shedding some light on what I think we already knew, but I think it honestly gave me more not comfort, that sounds weird, but like more of a relief knowing that, you know, we're still sitting here wondering if Chris Jones is going to get paid or not. Hearing Joe talk like that as comfortably as he did, I think he's been given the green light of sorts to tell us, hey guys, look, I'm his defensive line coach, which means it's the equivalent of Matt Nagy to Patrick Mahomes.
Makes me look good.
Yeah, he knows this. Joe Colin knows that I need Chris Jones, and Matt Nagy needs Patrick Mahomes. It's the equivalent of, like I said, Matt Nagy to Patrick Mahomes is Joe Colin to Chris Jones, a direct coaching source. I think because of the fact he talks so comfortably, because of the fact he said what he said in just this short snippet, tells me that we are still very much in line to see Chris Jones get an extension, and before week 1, he will be here. I will preface this by saying, though, Trevor, due to the comfortability, though, I also think that they understand how serious Chris Jones is. Mm-hmm. And I told you weeks ago, we said it on this show weeks ago, I do believe if it got worse and it got uglier, I do think Chris Jones will let this bleed into the regular season. I know that sounds nuts right now, but I think he's willing to lose.
That only hurts him.
Well, but think about this. Think about it, though. It actually does hurt the Chiefs too. Because think about it. Look at the
not financially.
That's true.
But
as far as what they're trying to do on the field, because we know that the Chiefs are trying to repeat as champions. And I broke this down before, and I'll say it just real quick, and we'll get to your thoughts on this Joe Colin conversation, Trevor. But when it comes to Chris Jones, in this scenario, and God, I hope it doesn't happen. But if Chris Jones is willing to sacrifice $2.5 million in 2 preseason games so far, because it's $1.3 million or whatever per preseason game, so it's like 2.6 plus the money he's already lost in training camp, which is over $1 million. That's over $3 million right there. He's already walked away from. He ain't getting right. I would like to believe that Chris Jones is willing to sit on even more than that because of the fact that this man, as I just said a few minutes ago, already got himself an $80 million extension 3 years ago, which means he's got money to back his stance up. If this was him coming off his rookie deal, he would not be doing what he's doing right now because he didn't do it last time. He took the money the Chiefs offered him and got himself an extension. He didn't have grounds to stand on. He didn't have money to stand on. Now he does. And he's willing to lose some money to get the big payday. And I think he's willing to show the Chiefs, look, and I'm not hearing this from anybody. This is just my theory. If Chris Jones is sitting here going, look, guys, I'm serious about what I want. I want to get paid the way I want to get paid, and you guys need to give that to me, or I'm going to let you guys go against that Hungry Lions team in week 1 when the world's watching without me. And I know that sounds like, oh, the Chiefs can still win that game. They very well could. But this team without Chris Jones, Trevor, to me, will not win the Super Bowl. I will say that very, very, very confidently.
Heard that one before, though.
I've heard that one before, too. But here's the thing, Trevor. Have they won one without him? They haven't. You know what I mean? He is a key figure to this team. I know we talk about Tyreek Hill and other players they've lost, they've still won Super Bowls without. But we would both agree, because Trevor, crazy enough, dude, 3 years ago, we're sitting here, we're talking about who would you rather have long term. We've all said Chris Jones because we know his positional value and the player are more valuable to this team moving forward than even Tyreek Hill.
That showed apparent
and it
last
did.
Year.
So Chris Jones is a guy that I don't think this team, as currently constructed, can win a Super Bowl without. They could do it in a year or two, but like I've said so many times on this show before, they have shown us no reason to believe they've tried to move off Chris Jones at all, now or later. They have not drafted at his position. They've drafted one player at his position in the last 32 draft picks, and it was a 6th-round pick. So they're not even trying to move off of Chris Jones, and Brett Veach has had the luxury of building his defenses around one player, and it's been Chris Jones. So, again, you bring Joe Cullen in here to help improve this defensive line. Your defensive line is built around one player. It's the guy that Joe Cullen is singing the praises of. I like to believe that means that they're going to get this thing done, or Chris Jones is going to say, look, guys, you decide how valuable I am to you, and if you guys really want to go into the regular season without me, I'm going to show you guys what it's going to take. I know it sounds nuts now, but I don't think it's that nuts to think about seeing how much he's been willing to give up through training camp and through preseason. What are your thoughts, Trevor, on this whole situation?
Yeah, I don't think we need Coach Cullen to reiterate how good Chris Jones is, and I don't think it adds any leverage for Chris Jones. I think we already know the facts of reality, that how good he is. This obviously has become a massive game of chicken and a massive distraction in my mind. And honestly, it's really starting to frustrate me as a fan. I don't like these kind of things lingering into a season, especially with a big name like Chris Jones, which is a massive absence of talent for this defense, for scrimmages, for practices, for leading into the season. For Patrick Mahomes, I mean, not that he needs Chris Jones in the practice squad to go against him to prepare for the season, but having that extra competition during the practice and just getting reps in is important. And I'm sure Chris Jones is I'm sure he's staying in shape. I don't doubt that at all. He's a freak athlete, and he always stays in shape in the offseason, working out in Florida or wherever he is. Typically, I think it's in Florida. But yeah, it's become a massive game of chicken, and maybe I don't know. We don't know. We don't know. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of things going on behind the scenes. Obviously, the Chiefs don't want to pay him what he wants. I think that's pretty apparent at this point. If they did and it was no problem, they would have done it by now. That's just the facts, reality, and we all have to understand that. So there's a game of chicken going on right now. Maybe the Chiefs feel like they gave him that big contract, like you alluded to a few minutes ago. And a few years back, they gave him that big, massive contract extension, and maybe that was the big contract extension they wanted to do, and they don't plan on doing another big one like that. And I don't blame the Chiefs for feeling that way, nor do I blame Chris Jones for feeling like he deserves another one, because last year, like Coach Cullen said, he was arguably the best defensive player in the league last year. But I mean, I see the business side of it too. I see, this is a league that, what are you doing for me now? What are you doing for me right now? This was last year. We don't pay guys for what they did in the past seasons, especially when a guy's still under contract for this current season. So there is some things, man, that I understand both sides. I get Chris Jones, and I'm always on the side of the player getting their money as a person. This is a game. This is a grueling game. In any moment, it can be over. You know what I mean? So securing your guarantees is huge. If they can figure out the guarantee money, I'd be cool with that. And I'm pretty sure that's the linchpin on what's keeping Chris Jones absent is the guarantees. So it's really frustrating as a fan and as someone who talks about this weekly to keep talking about it weekly. You know what I mean? Like, it's really, really starting to get annoying. And I know a lot of people like love to delve into this social media stuff, the cryptic stuff that he's doing. And honestly, I try not to pay attention to it. It starts to get on my nerves after a while. And some people think what he's doing is warranted or whatever. He's just toying with people's emotions, if we're being honest. And it's just kind of immature in my mind, personally, from my point of view. But if he's really putting in that work and doing all the things he needs to be doing, I just don't understand how you have time to really go out there and be this cryptic guy to kind of keep people strung along on the whatever is going on behind the scenes. Even though you want to dead things, but nothing's been dead. Either way, I love Chris Jones dearly. He's one of my all-time favorite Chiefs at this point. As a fan, I would loathe the reality of seeing him in another jersey ever. So I do. I mean, you do expect this to be done, an extension to be done. I do think one side's going to have to budge, and I do think Chris Jones' side is going to have to budge a little bit. I don't think they're going to win. I think that the Chiefs franchise and the leverage is more on the Chiefs side still in my mind.
Well, and see, I would normally agree with that. Again, though, and I have to keep reemphasizing
he ain't going to sit out that many games. I'm telling you that right now, bro.
Okay, but
maybe week one.
What I'm saying is I'm getting prepared for it because of the fact that, again, the Chiefs are in a very delicate.
It's never worked out for anybody, bro.
Okay, but how many guys and how many teams have been in this situation where this guy is this pivotal to a team that's in the midst of a dynasty? Like look at how many dynasties we've had in the last 20 years. It's been one, right? So there's been only one real franchise that's been in the situation the Chiefs are currently in the last 2-3 decades. My point I'm trying to make is you don't have this situation very often. And when you have a guy this important that's looking for this kind of payday on a team that has not tried even close to replace him, that does not have a replacement in place. I would agree with you 100%. I would agree with the Chiefs 100%. If they had drafted a guy, let's say in 2022 or even this year, there was a stud interior defensive lineman that has the same characteristics and similarities and skill sets of a Chris Jones, but they don't and they haven't. And that's the point I'm saying as to why I continue to be one of the few, if only, maybe the only person out here that's been saying that he's the one that has leverage here. Because the Chiefs, if their ultimate goal is to win another Super Bowl.
Both sides have leverage. It's a balance of who has more.
And that's what I'm saying. I think that right now it's tilting on Chris's side because of the fact that Chiefs do not have a replacement for him. They cannot go out there right now and play a full schedule. Let's just say Chris Jones doesn't play this year. I'm not saying that's going to happen. I'm not anticipating that. But imagine this season without Chris Jones. How significant of a difference is that going to be for this team? It's a massive difference. Like, I would say that's a 2 to 3 win difference for this team, legitimately. And a 2 to 3 win difference this season could be the difference between the Chiefs winning the 1 seed and being a borderline wild card team, legitimately. I know that sounds nuts right now, but that is how important this man is to this franchise. Not just because of how good he is, because they literally do not have an answer after him or around him. You have a bunch of young pass rushers, and Charles Amin, who's going to miss the first month and a half of the season. So there's a massive gap there between Chris Jones and who's next. So that is why the leverage plays on his side, and that is why he's still sitting here not taking what they're offering. And I've said, even back with the D-Hop situation, about how the Chiefs are telling us that they're not willing to budge on contract negotiations. This is, to me, and Brett Veach is one of the 3 to 5, if not the best GM in football. He's one of the elites, truly. And I love Brett Veach, and I love that he's running this team. But every GM, especially young ones like Brett Veach, who's still very much in his early 40s, there are learning lessons. And I think this might be one of those. Because if you really think about it, since Brett Veach has taken over, outside of trading for Frank Clark and paying him that money, which was one of the first moves he ever made, and paying Patrick Mahomes, which was a common sense move,
to that kind of contract, to a 10-year contract.
Outside of those 2 moves, and how many acquisitions Brett Veach has made over the last 5+ years, he's never really had to pay a veteran big-time money. Like, even Travis Kelce's was considered a discount. Think about it. There have only been 2 moves in Brett Veach's entire tenure as Chiefs GM where he's paid substantial money to veterans. Patrick Mahomes and Frank Clark as the guy they traded for in 2018. This is a very nuanced situation for Brett Veach as a GM. So this might be a learning lesson for him to say, hey, look, man, you're trying to, teeter the team line here where you're trying to make sure that you're not having Clark Hunt have to dish out as much money as he would like to. But this is still one of those moves you have to make if you're still trying to win more Super Bowls. It'd be one thing if the Chiefs, Travis Kelce retired. The offensive line's in rebuild mode. Patrick Mahomes coming off an injury. You're trying to reconfigure this thing. I can understand why you don't pay Chris Jones because you're trying to rebuild this thing. You're in the midst of trying to repeat as Super Bowl champions. Paying a guy like Chris Jones is a common sense move according to all the context I just laid out. Would you agree?
Yeah, of course. Like I think the Chiefs should pay him. I think the Chiefs should do what they got to do to keep him here. I'm on that side, but the reality is there's information that we are without. There's reasons that we are without. Logic reasons or emotional reasons, most likely logical reasons from the Chiefs side that are giving them pause. Maybe we don't know what that is. Maybe, like we've seen in the past, big contracts given out to defensive players, Justin Houston and things like that sabotage the future, and it took a while to recover from certain contracts like that. And not saying that Chris Jones isn't worth every penny, but is it worth it money-wise in the long term to do that? Can we maneuver the Joe Toonies and these other guys and Patrick Mahomes and whoever's money we got to shuffle around to make it work long term? Can we do that? And if the Chiefs feel like they can't, then we're at a crossroads here. You know what I mean? And losing the talent of Chris Jones is something that would suck, but going into financial debt is not worth it because we've seen that happen on good defenses and things fell apart when leadership was not overpaying guys, but paying guys properly what they wanted, but in the long term, it wasn't good for the team. At the end of the day, for me, I want what's best for this team. I love Chris Jones dearly, but I want the Chiefs to continue to win with or without him. If we lose Chris Jones and that gives us more long-term success down the road, I want that. I don't want to keep Chris Jones here and have maybe a couple good runs here, and then that's it. And then we're in financial debt and issues for the next 5-6 seasons. I'd rather avoid that and keep the boat afloat and worry about things later and continue to have this dynastic run. But at the same time, I think that dynastic run is massively a part of Chris Jones' talent and what he does for this team.
Right, and if
tough for us as fans right now, man.
If not paying Chris Jones adds to your leads to your scenario, then my question automatically is: then why have you not been trying to draft his replacement?
Sure.
I mean, my God.
Yeah, that's the
my
question.
thing. I'm okay. I would be okay. It would suck. Don't get me wrong. I would be okay with the Chiefs moving off of Chris Jones at 29, 30 years old if I knew they had been trying to move off of him by doing it in a sensical way. By, hey, we've drafted 3 interior defensive linemen in the first 3 rounds these last 2 years.
Yeah.
You know how we see the Chiefs doing wide receiver? You're drafting Sky Moore, you're drafting Rashee Rice. It justifies moving off of Juju. It justifies not paying Tyreek Hill because you're trying to replicate.
Going to get Kadarius Toney.
Yes, going to get Kadarius Toney. You're showing us you're trying to replace that position. But you're not doing that.
Yeah.
So what in the hell am I supposed to think here when we know how valuable he is to this? And if you're not going to pay him or you're playing this game of chicken like you called it, then why are you not going cheaper and younger?
I think the only real reason I can think the Chiefs obviously not wanting to pay him that much, I think the Chiefs feel like they gave him that really big extension last time. I think they paid that, which it was a huge contract extension. He was making $25 million a year, right?
It was like 20.
A little over 20
The value
million
of that
year.
position has gone up substantially since
a lot
Aaron
of guaranteed
Donald got
money.
His money. Yes.
He secured the bag on that big extension. We had 2 guys making $20 million on the defensive line.
Lot's happened though in 4 years.
We paid him and Frank handsomely.
I mean, the Chiefs been to 2 Super Bowls since then. You know what I mean?
Of course, and I feel like I feel like the Chiefs are like, hey man, maybe take a little one for the team, which we should not expect him to do that. I'm not saying this is what the Chiefs are saying. I have any information at all. I'm just trying to put myself in the mind of the Chiefs front office and what they think, and Brett Veach is what he's thinking.
Yeah.
Maybe they feel like they gave him that big contract once already.
You know what I'd say to that if the Chiefs try to sell me that shit? Yeah. I'd be like, so you don't think I've outlived or outshined that contract?
Sure.
You think I'm playing like a $20 million a year guy? You're basically telling me that I'm playing like $4 million less than
that was
Quinnen
top
Williams.
money at that time.
I'm just saying, according to where we're at now, like Quinnen Williams is making $24 million, and Quinnen Williams hasn't accomplished a fourth of a Chris Jones. And Quinnen Williams is awesome. Don't get me wrong.
Sure.
And he's young,
a decade younger.
Yeah, well, 4 years younger. But my point is that I'm not a $20 million a year player. Like right now, Chris Jones on annual value of his contract is 9th at his position. 9th.
Yeah.
The dude's the best at what he does. You have to pay players, like even Travis Kelce, who took a discount. has the second highest in value at tight ends and contracts
Tight ends
George Kittle.
or the league's still catching up to the tight end value.
Sure.
Though. Those guys are just all underpaid.
Yeah. Travis Kelce is underpaid
George
because
Kittle,
of his
all those
production,
guys
which
are-
is in
Mark
comparison to the
Andrews.
best receivers in football.
Yeah.
So, yes, I get what you're saying. My point, though, is that Travis Kelce takes less, Patrick Mahomes takes less. In regards to saving money for guys like Chris Jones to get paid, you got to go out there and do it. Otherwise, it makes no sense for these guys.
And like we discussed before, Chris Jones doesn't have the off-field money that Kelsey
Right.
and Patrick Mahomes have. Because
Right.
they're very marketable guys.
Yes.
So
Yes.
that is a thing, and both those guys understand that, which is why they feel the need to budge. But also they also feel the need to budge for long-term success for this team and make this ride as special as possible. And I know Chris Jones is on board with that, and he's a massive part of this. But I feel like his camp's gonna have to budge more than the Chiefs side. I don't think the Chiefs are budging, man. I think they've proven that with Orlando Brown and other guys letting Tyreek walk and doing what's right by him, letting him choose a new suitor.
The thing about those two situations, though, are the Chiefs did try to pay those guys record money.
Sure.
Like, before Devontae Adams got his deal with the Raiders, the Chiefs were going to pay Tyreek Hill historic money. Before, Orlando Brown got offered two different $100 million contracts.
We just had a little less guaranteed money.
Exactly. It was the fine print that Orlando didn't agree with, and that's why that didn't happen. But they were willing to pay him a lot of money. That's the difference, and that's why I'm sitting here going, okay, then why aren't you willing to pay Chris Jones? Is it his age? Because if it's his age, why haven't you been building contingency plans?
Yeah.
That's what's driving me nuts right now. Like, again, if they had gotten a guy this year in like the second round that's an absolute baller, or the year before and it's an absolute baller and he's developing into that guy, I could sit here and go, man, Chris is going to have to take less if he wants to stay in Kansas City. Otherwise, he's going to make money elsewhere. That's literally what I'd be saying right now. So, yeah, that's that. If you're in the comments right now, you're watching on YouTube, tell me what side you're on right now. Are you more on our side where you think Chris Jones is going to ultimately have to budge in order for this thing to get done? Or are you more on my side where I think Chris Jones is sitting here with a lot of leverage in his hands saying, look, if you guys want to continue to build a dynasty, you're going to have to pay me what I'm worth, and I'll be on the field in no time.
Either way, he's playing this.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think so too. I just think that I'm preparing myself mentally and emotionally for the idea that week one comes and Chris Jones won't be there. I am preparing myself for that if this doesn't get done before then.
Yeah, John Harrison said, I got a feeling our deal will get worked out this week now that camp is over.
I hope you're right, Johnny. I really do, man. And like I said, let us know what side you're on this one right now, because I think Trevor and I both agree on the fact that we want to see Chris Jones get paid. It's just who's going to budge first. That's kind of where we're at right now. So let us know what you're thinking. One of my favorite questions I've been asked, Trevor, when it comes to sports talk throughout the years is, and it's literally said like this: what I be talking about, bro?
Yeah, what do you be
what I be
talking
talking about? That's one of my favorite questions I get asked, and one of those questions was asked when I what was it, July 20th, actually. I had made that tweet, Trevor, when it said that Justin Ross has more pressure on him than anybody else on this roster, or just as much as anybody on this roster right now. Yeah, on this roster. And people are going to expect him, if he makes this team, which it does look promising, they're going to expect him to be a star, not have a slow start, not be a guy that's just kind of, come in here and be a Byron Pringle. No offense to Byron, but Byron wasn't a star. They're expecting him to be a guy that's going to be a day one contributor, a difference maker. And I told everybody on there I wish him the best, because I don't think at that time it was going to make sense. Well, we've seen nothing since then short of people expecting exactly what I said was going to happen. People are expecting him to be a star. And it's all the way to the national level now, Trevor. So this week I heard Dan Orlovsky on Get Up, this show with Mike Greenberg. It's a good show in the mornings on ESPN. Talk about the Chiefs wide receiver room, what we're expecting from Patrick Mahomes, because the conversation, and it is a fair one, over these last 2 years since Tyreek Hill's been gone, is what is the wide receiver room going to look like? Who is Patrick Mahomes going to rely on? Basically everything I've been saying on the show for the longest time. It's now reaching the national level, and it's become a legitimate conversation across the board. And this is the conversation, and this is what Dan Orlovsky had to say in response to the question.
Talk about that Kansas City offense and Patrick and everything else. Do they have enough? That's really the question, Dan Orlovsky. No team has repeated in the NFL in basically 2 decades, because it's awfully hard to do. And we understand they have the Hall of Fame coach, and we understand they have the already immortal quarterback. But there are some real questions at the wide receiver position. Do they have enough to get back to where they want to go?
If Justin Ross stays healthy, I think that answer is yes. So if we look at the Chiefs, there's only 2 teams in the NFL, Greeny. Because they lost Juju Smith-Schuster and Nico Hartman. There's two teams in the NFL that have less from their receiving core when it comes to receptions, receiving yards, and touchdowns. Those two teams are the Atlanta Falcons and the Green Bay Packers. With Patrick and Kelsey, all that. In a conference that is absolutely loaded to score points. One of these young receivers, either Rashee Rice, who they drafted out of SMU this year, either Kadarius Toney, who they traded for, Sky Moore, as you see at the bottom of that screen, Justin Ross. One of those guys has got to step up and be a difference maker at wide receiver. And we don't know if they're going to be. If I had to pick one, I'm banking on Justin Ross. I called a couple of his games at Clemson. He is off the charts talented. He would have been a top 15 pick if he could have stayed healthy.
Top 15 pick. What are you be talking about, man?
I'm a little sore, Trevor, from lifting on these bitches this week. Did you catch any of that?
I heard it. I heard it all.
Yeah,
heard everything said.
What was the first name that Dan Orlovsky mentioned when Greeny passed it to him as far as weapons that Patrick Mahomes is going to rely on this year?
Well, if Justin Ross can stay healthy.
Yeah. What do you call him? A top 15 talent? Top 15 pick? If he'd have been healthy? This is from Dan Orlovsky in July of 2022, a tweet he had made. The most interesting wide receiver addition to the Chiefs this offseason is Justin Ross. If he is healthy, he is a first-round wide receiver talent. This is from August 3rd of this year from Dan Orlovsky. Called some of Justin Ross's games in college. Seeing him in camp this season is so awesome. Man, if he stays healthy, what a boost to the Super Bowl champs and would be so incredible for him. Isn't it funny, Trevor, how this shit works sometimes with narratives? This is coming from a guy, and I will gladly admit this. I did not have Justin Ross making this team just a month ago.
Idiot. Because
of the fact that I viewed him as a project. A guy that has dealt with a myriad of injuries to his back and to his ankles. Two very, very serious parts of your body that you need, especially at skill position, for a skill position player. You got to be healthy at those parts of your body in order to be effective at that position. Justin Ross has dealt with a lot of injuries at those two parts of his body. But now that he's healthy and has been at training camp, we're seeing him flourish with Patrick Mahomes in the first-team offense.
Even got himself a tutty in the preseason.
Even got himself a touchdown late in the game against the Saints this week. Creating separation, going up and getting balls up in the air, making plays. This is exactly what I was telling people a month ago. And it's coming from somebody that's had to reconstruct my opinion because I'm finally seeing it. What do I always say, Trevor? If you can show it to me and prove it to me, I will back you. I will say, you know what? I'm glad I was wrong. And guess what, fellas? Guess what, ladies? I'm glad I'm wrong because I think Justin Ross is showing that this dude can be a contributor to this team. Do I personally believe Justin Ross is going to be a star? No. But that doesn't change the fact that Dan Orlovsky and the common fan down the road from us expects him to be a star. He's literally laying it out for us. Guys like Dan Orlovsky who have played in this league and is now an analyst on Get Up and several other ESPN shows. He is expecting him to show talents of a first-round wide receiver. Guys like that are expected to be stars in the league. That is why there's been so much hype around Kadarius Toney, because he was a first-round pick. In fact, he was a top 10 pick for the Giants just 3 years ago. Yes. There are expectations on Justin Ross, and I've been trying to tell you guys this now for over a month. That's what I be talking about. So I hope you guys understand now. It isn't me saying it. It isn't me even speculating on it. It is other people that are paid millions of dollars to watch this game and have played this game that are saying the same things I have been saying. That's what I be saying. Trevor, what are your thoughts on this whole Justin Ross situation? Now that you've seen him in training camp, in a preseason game, hope to see him tonight in this game against the Cardinals. Looks like he's probably going to play. He avoided some serious injuries at training camp with his hamstring and his, I don't know what the other injury was, but I know it was a hamstring and ankle injury, which was something to be concerned about. He seems to be fine. What are your thoughts, Trevor? What you be saying about this?
As long as it's not a back-related injury, I'm good. With that spinal fusion, all that in his past. I love the kid. I did think he would make the roster. I've never bought into the idea that he was going to be a star, and I still don't think he's going to be a star. I think his ceiling is like a Michael Crabtree if he has like a really good career, which is a solid career. Michael Crabtree was a really good player. But I think that's a ceiling. But Michael Crabtree was never like a star. Right. He was a very good. He was like just like one of those guys that you want to have on your team.
A top 30, 35
Scrappy.
wide receiver. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think if he can find that ability to remain healthy and avoid any kind of setbacks, I think he has that potential to be that guy. But I think that's where his ceiling is. But I think he's got a pretty low floor, if I'm being honest. I think there's a lot of things that could go wrong, but I like all the hype. I think it's fun, even though I don't think he's even the second best receiver on this team. I'm talking wide receiver outside of Kelsey. I think Sky Moore has a really big year, and we'll get to that in our predictions and stuff. I still believe in Sky Moore a lot this year. I like him a lot in the slot. But I think he is an X factor though, because I think he's more along the lines of what MVS is, though, for being honest. The similar build, they're taller, really good at stretching the field, got speed, great hands, much better hands, I think, than MVS. MVS has had the dropsies throughout his career, but has really good catches in big moments, has made great catches through his career as well. I think he's got a lot of upside. I'm just not as sold as I think this is a sexy topic right now for a lot of people, and I think a lot of people have kind of forgotten about what Kadarius Toney could really be in this offense because he hasn't been around. I think a lot of people are starting to forget that, and I kind of like that because I'm still very much on Kadarius Toney hype train. I think he's the best receiver on this team. But as far as Justin Ross goes, man, I get it. I get why he's the prototypical wide receiver one. A lot of people were talking about they don't want D-Hop because we have Justin Ross is coming and all this thing. That was kind of some nonsense to me. There's still some things I see that I don't like. He still seems to be a little off on some routes. Timing and stuff seems to be a little off here and there. But, I mean, I'm trusting the coaches here, right? If this guy makes the roster, especially with the Remigio being dinged up now too, that damn near guarantees he's on this team, and he's going to get every chance he can get with that. And when the question mark of when Kadarius is actually going to be back, if he's going to be ready for Week 1, how ready will he be game shape wise, and all these things and that. So at the end of the day, he's got a massive shot here to as a launching pad for a possibly great career as a Chief, as an NFL player. If he can stay healthy, there's not a better starting spot you can be in than in this offense right now with Patrick Mahomes, arguably the greatest quarterback of all time, in the peak years of his career. Being a part of that, there's not a better situation you could be in, man. And learning around the guys you're learning around, the Travis Kelce's and guys like that, the Andy Reid. You can learn Andy Reid's offense, you can flourish damn near anywhere else because you're engraving new grooves in your brain learning this offense. So. I love the kid. I think the hype is real. I think he's got a lot of upside, a lot of talent. I think he could be a really good player for this team this season. A lot of people that are kind of thinking he's going to be, the second coming of Randy Moss. I think you really need to temper those expectations, and kind of see him for what he is. Because, like you said, if you see it, you believe it. We've yet to really see him do anything yet. He's never even played in an NFL game. We're talking real NFL action. Not preseason, not college. It's a whole different beast when things really get going and the game speeds up and things get tight and tense. You know what I mean? So how can his body endure, a full workload when he's getting that attention and then the top tier DBs and corners are on your ass talking shit and bumping you at the line? How are you going to take that? How are you going to respond? Granted, I know he comes from Clemson, great program, was incredible as even a freshman. First year he was incredible. I get that. None of that matters. All that goes out the window. What can you do for us now, man? And I got high hopes for him. I really do. I think the hype train has kind of forced everyone to really pay attention and hope the best for this kid. But we really got to kind of be careful with this.
I'm telling you right now, Chiefs fans are not going to be careful with their expectations of Justin Ross because
Which is
of the
fine.
fact
It's fun.
we put out a poll 3 days ago on our Twitter account, X account. I apologize. At the
What do you be
Spoken Pod.
talking about?
Yeah, what I be talking about? And I said which young wide receiver has more expectations on them going into the 2023 season? Rashee Rice, Sky Moore, Justin Ross. Now Sky Moore did win.
Unfairly, it's Sky Moore
did win this
okay.
one with 57%.
As he should.
But Justin Ross got 34% of the vote.
Yeah, Rashee Rice shouldn't even.
That means that over 1/3 of fans that voted in this poll picked Justin Ross.
Yeah.
That's a lot of people, man.
Yeah, over Sky Moore, that's silly. Sky Moore has
he
way more.
didn't over
No, I
Sky
know,
Moore.
I'm saying, but
Yeah.
like that many people picked him over
Yeah,
Sky Moore.
Sky Moore should have won this by like 80%.
It's 100% Sky Moore.
He won it by 23%. Like, it's not that I know he won. My point, though, is that shows you there are a lot of people that are having high expectations on Justin Ross to be a legitimate contributor to this team. And
not
again,
fair to him,
that
man.
is not what you and I agree. I think, and we'll give our predictions as time comes on, I think at most Justin Ross is a guy that's going to get 400 yards this season. Like, I don't think he's going to be a guy that's going to get
like
600, 700, 800 yards.
Maybe 3 or 4 touchdowns.
Yeah, like at most.
Yeah.
Like that's at most because of the fact also Patrick Mahomes loves to spread the love.
Well, yeah.
This is a guy that threw touchdowns to 11, 12 guys last season. Like
Yeah.
a lot of guys are going to catch the ball this year. Justin Ross, to me, is not skilled enough at this time or has not shown me enough to say this is a wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2, or even a wide receiver 3 yet. I think he's a wide receiver 4 at best right now. But that doesn't change the fact that, again, the guys from the top of the national headquarters, the mothership, all the way down to us common fans, are expecting this man to be a legitimate contributor. Dan Orlovsky himself literally said that on the show. If I had to take a vote on all of these young wide receivers to be a guy that steps up this year, it's Justin Ross. That is high praise because everybody and their freaking mom has been telling me this whole offseason that this room of wide receivers is littered with talent. They're deep at wide receiver. Like you said, Trevor, we don't need D-Hop.
Yeah.
Y'all been telling me that this whole offseason. So that tells me this team should be deep as hell. And if you guys are also saying in your same breath that Justin Ross is one of the guys that makes it very deep, then he better go out there and ball out this year because that's all I be saying. Now let's move over, and again, if you guys have any questions or anything you want to add to that, hit us up on the chat. Let us know what you guys are wanting to talk about when it comes to Justin Ross. I know it's been a hot button topic. We're going to move on real quick before we get to you guys officially and start to get some of your guys' questions and takes. We know the Chiefs tonight at 7 o'clock Central Time play the Cardinals in Arizona. That shitty-ass field the Chiefs are going to have to play on for the third time in a calendar year.
Playing on skates.
Not looking forward to it at all, but they are going to be out there. Briefly, Trevor, I want to go over some of the things what I'm looking for in this game. And again, we already credited Justin Ross for what he did in that game against the Saints. I liked what I saw from the kid. A lot, as our guy Clay Windler, our producer, said, a lot of meat was left on the bone in that game for Justin Ross because Shane Buechele was struggling to get Justin Ross the ball. And I think if he would have thrown some more accurate passes, Justin would have had an even bigger game than he had. So what I'm looking forward to right off the top, Trevor, is Patrick Mahomes and the key starters scoring a touchdown on their first drive so they can be put on ice until week 1.
Oh, yeah.
Because we know that the Chiefs won't be playing key starters in the third and final preseason game next week.
You don't want them to play the whole first half?
Yeah, I know. Despite what other people think, I don't think that should be a realistic option. You guys know where I stand. I wish Patrick Mahomes never played a single snap in preseason because the man doesn't need it. I know a lot of you guys are telling me that he needs it to get in rhythm with his wide receivers. Funny enough, he played 6 offensive snaps for the Chiefs last week against the Saints. Didn't throw the ball a single time to a wide receiver. Maybe that changes today. I don't really care.
Show.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter for Patrick Mahomes to play in these games.
Yeah.
So just get through it, go out there, score a quick touchdown, be done with your day. My second one is if the Cardinals, again, decide to put a decent field out there this time. They had 2 chances when the Chiefs came to town last season, and it was awful both times. The third one, I want to see which of these backup running backs is getting the most opportunity. The reason I'm saying this is yesterday I was talking with our brother Marcus Dash from Chief Concerns, and we both had noticed that folks are reporting, rather claiming that rookie Deneric Prince has, quote-unquote, fallen out of favor with the Chiefs coaching staff. I don't know when or how that happened because I've seen nothing but positives from the kid. And last I checked, which was about 3 hours ago, Prince is still above LaMichael P. Ryan and Jerrion Ely on the depth chart, according to Chiefs.com.
He looked good, man.
So I'm missing the part of where he's falling out of favor because I think we all are expecting the Chiefs to keep 4 running backs like they did last year. Deneric Prince has been one of the highlights of the offseason, rather training camp.
Yeah.
What am I missing here? And this is something I want to say briefly, Trevor, real quick. I'm just going to go on this little tangent here. I don't like to call out our local media very often, but I feel more and more that I've had to do it. Sometimes by name. I'm not going to do that today by name, but I am going to call out some of these bullshit narratives that I'm seeing from a lot of these different sources, these different articles, these different networks in the local sports media. When you guys are trying to push a narrative to get Justin Watson on the team by downplaying what Justin Ross is doing, when you're saying stuff like he's falling out, Deneric Prince is falling out of favor with the coaching staff, where is that coming from? It sounds to me like there are just narratives that are being pushed out there, and in order for some to look right or feel right, they continue with it, even though there's really no evidence of that. I don't see, I want to see where Deneric Prince is falling out of favor when, again, if you look at the depth chart, the only guys that are above him are the only guys that have been above him the entire time. More reliable, trusted veteran assets. Jerick McKinnon, Isaiah Pacheco, and Clyde Edwards-Helaire. They all three should be above him in the depth chart. And when it comes to Justin Watson, let's be real here, guys. He's not good enough to be sitting on ice and essentially be sitting out the preseason and still make this team, no matter what some of these people are saying on their networks and on their shows. Justin Watson's not good enough to do that. And I don't think Justin Watson's done enough this preseason and during training camp to justify a position on this team. I know I was one that said over a month ago that he's probably going to make the team because of his contract and the fact the Chiefs trust him. But over the last month, how much of Justin Watson have we seen? How much of Justin Ross have we seen? A ton. So it's going to be the battle of the Justins, as I have been saying, because I very much think that they're still going to keep 6, not 7 wide receivers, because that's Andy Reid's way. And he's going to want to continue to keep depth in the trenches on offense and on defense side. He's going to stick to his guns, which means it's going to be a battle of the Justins. And if I'm making my vote right now, it's without question, it's Ross over Watson. So
way more upside.
But there's, like I said, like Marcus and I and a few others have noticed, it's a very weird thing that's going on with our media here in Kansas City, where they're pushing Watson. They're pushing this falling out of favor for Deneric Prince for some of these other guys to emerge. Why? I don't see it. I don't understand. I can't comprehend it. If you guys know in the chat, man, let me know. Trevor, you have a theory, let me know. But that's just something I kind of push out there while I bring up the running back position, because it feels dishonest. I'm going to be really honest with you. I like some of these people that I'm mentioning. I'm not trying to harp too hard on these folks, not at a personal level, but some of these narratives just simply don't make sense, and I really hope that they can rethink their inks before they judge these people the way that they have been, as far as who makes the team, who doesn't, because it feels very dishonest. It feels almost like it's bought and paid for, to be quite honest with you. Something else I'm looking for in this game is more Chamari Connor.
Yes, sir. I was going to bring him up.
My guy bowled out in the Saints matchup. He looked incredible in the blitz schemes. Spags was dialing him up. Guys, this is what I've been telling you.
He looked great.
He looks like he could be a guy that legitimately replaces L'Jarius Sneed. Me and my guy Arrowhead Tom from Kingdom Says, we're having a little bit of a friendly debate this last week about that, because Tom doesn't believe that Chamari is going to be that successful for L'Jarius. I 100% believe he's going to be, because he has a similar skill set, and because of the fact he's a jack of all trades, and the fact that L'Jarius Sneed has not played hardly at all in preseason. Well, he hasn't played any preseason, but he hasn't played much at all at training camp over the last 2.5 weeks. Chamari Connor looks like a guy that could step up this year. I was very much of the belief, Trevor, that he's a 2024 candidate.
Yeah.
This is going to be a guy that is a further developing player. He looks like he might be ready for the stage.
He might get some rotations in early.
And this would be on brand, because one thing that Brett Veach does amazingly is draft corners late in the draft. And Chamari Connor was a 4th-round pick. Joshua Williams was a 4th-round pick. Jalen Watson was a 7th-round pick. And we're seeing studs across the board. My guy Brian Cook looked good. I think Leo Chenal stepped up, played really well.
Drew Tranquil looked
Drew
good.
Tranquil looked awesome, even though we've had...
Mike Edwards was playing really well.
Even though we had CDOT literally on 610 calling Drew Tranquil a disappointment this week. I don't know where that came from. That's neither here nor there.
Preseason game, bro.
I don't know what the hell he was talking about, but
he has actual
that's usually
NFL
how it goes.
film you can go watch.
Yeah, and again, I think, like I said, I think Chamari Connor is really earning himself an opportunity to play a lot of snaps this year, especially if L'Jarius Sneed is out for any length of time during the regular season. I don't know how that's looking. looking, but it doesn't look like he's playing today either. So I think that L'Jarius Sneed might be getting replaced sooner than we thought, and that could potentially be happening. And then bringing up Justin Watson again, like I said, he needs to play in this game. I don't think he's going to, but in my opinion, and I know Andy Reid knows this game far greater than I ever would, in my opinion, though, Justin Watson needs to show us something in preseason because he does have a legitimate battle on his hands. Unless Andy Reid is going to change his ideology and go with 7 receivers, I don't think Justin Watson should make this roster. Because again, and I said it last week, and I'll continue to say it, Trevor, until we see the cuts, this wide receiver room is built upon what? Young potential talent. So lean into it. Get as many of these young potential talents as you can then.
But you also need those guys that are trustworthy guys as well.
Sure.
Like MVS and the Watson.
But again, if this battle, because we know that Rashee Rice is making the team.
Yeah.
We know that Richie James is making the team. We know that MVS and Sky Moore are making the team. And we know that, I'm missing somebody. Oh, Sky Moore, obviously. Sky Moore is making this team. That's 5 right there, okay? So if you're going to keep 6, it comes down to who? Justin Ross and Justin Watson. Who are you taking right now, Trev?
I'm taking the upside of Ross.
Thank you. That's my whole point. So I agree with you that you should have more of sure hands and stuff like that. Is Justin Watson even that? I know the Chiefs like him, but we saw even last season Justin Watson was dropping passes. Yeah. This guy, he's a veteran. I get it.
It's more than just like the drops, which weren't too bad. There were some bad timely ones, but running the right routes, timing, because timing is huge for Pat, obviously.
Yeah.
That's why him and Kelsey's duo is incredible, because the timing is just it's insane. But having guys that are on time and run the right routes is huge, because we've seen McCole Hardman blow up plays that should have been huge plays, and he ran the wrong route, or the timing was off, or he cut too early or too late. That's a big deal.
Yeah,
Justin Watson seems to have a good connection with Pat.
If you're going to keep veteran players over a young, talented potential player, that veteran better be a difference maker. Yeah. Justin Watson is not a difference maker.
Yeah.
He's not.
No, I agree. He's vanilla.
Exactly.
No
he's a wide receiver 5. You know what I mean? Like, he's not a guy that you bring on this roster and go, okay, we're good. We got Justin Watson. That's not how it goes.
Yeah.
So if you're going with potential, if you're going with guys that you think can turn into something special, you go with those guys. So I want to see the Chiefs lean into that 100%. But if Justin Watson goes out here, let's say he does play in a preseason game and does something well, then I'm like, okay, now he's showing us something. But throughout training camp and throughout preseason, we've seen nothing for us to think that Justin Watson should make this roster. Yeah. And I'm gonna give credit where credit is due, Trevor. It was my biggest concern of the offseason, but I loved what I saw from Donovan Smith. That man was mauling folks.
Yeah.
He was throwing grown men around. This dude looked like a guy that could shore up that left tackle position. And maybe this whole time it was really his injury. Maybe it was. I'm willing to be wrong about this, because I said, guys, I thought he was a downgrade from Orlando Brown Jr. Maybe he won't be.
Yeah.
Maybe he'll be better than Orlando Brown Jr. I'm not above it. If he's better than Orlando Brown, the Chiefs upgraded. I'm glad to be wrong.
I thought the whole left side looked really good.
The offensive line looked amazing.
Even Christian looked good, and Wanya Morris in the last few possessions
the backups looked
really
good.
Yeah.
And again, to my point, Trevor, this is why I think the Chiefs are going to try to keep 10 offensive linemen, because the depth is there.
Yeah.
And if Donovan Smith is good,
yeah,
you keep Jawan Taylor comfortably at right tackle. You have Wanya Morris and Prince Tega Winogo and Darian Kennard and Nick Allegretti, and you have all these guys that can fill in if one of these guys goes down. The Chiefs, if Donovan Smith is good this year, the Chiefs have the best offensive line in football. Because you have the best interior offensive line in the NFL with Joe Tooney Creed and Trey Pancake Papa Smith. And if Jawan Taylor is who he was with Jacksonville at right tackle, they're going to be shored up at right tackle. They upgraded significantly from Andrew Wiley.
Yeah.
And then you go to left tackle, and if you upgrade with Donovan Smith, dude, you don't have a weakness on your offensive line. You have nothing but strengths. And what I saw, if that's who Donovan Smith is going to be this year, Patrick Mahomes is going to have a clean jersey every single week. Yeah, this man is going to be protected.
Looked athletic.
And you want to talk about getting fleeced by Veach. I mean, the market value they got from Donovan Smith, I think the contract's total is like $3-4 million that they're paying for him in actual money he's going to make. So I loved it. Donovan Smith, keep that shit up, dude, because I loved what I saw from you. My final one, I'm going to get to you, Trevor, because I know I'm getting long-winded as hell on this, is Keandre Coburn. I'm going to keep hammering this away. He's my guy. I'm not giving up on Keandre.
Kind of need to see some at the position.
We saw some. Yeah, we saw some against the Saints. Not a lot. He was filling some gaps and things like that, but he didn't really make a lot of impact plays. I think he's going to get a ton of play this week and next week because Danny Shelton looked really good against the Saints. He made that sack on Jameis Winston with his leg. I really liked what I saw.
Yeah.
Danny Shelton looked good.
He looked great.
He looked really good. I think he's going to make this roster.
So big, man.
And this is a good problem to have because if Keandre Coburn is your third defensive tackle, that means you got depth. But I want to see Keandre Coburn go out there and try to steal a grown man's job this week. I want to see him go out there and shine big, maybe cause a fumble, maybe do a deflected pass and it's intercepted, do something. Go out there and make an impact play, and then you can start having a debate of, hey, maybe you should move him over Danny Shelton. This is a younger cat. He's a guy that's trying to prove himself. He's a 6th-round pick, not making any money. Try to get him on, see if he can climb to that number 2 spot, and then maybe one day get that number 1 spot. We don't know yet. I just want to see my guy Keandre Coburn go out there and do something special today. Trevor, what are you looking for?
Yeah, I mean, I want to see Wanya Morris again get some more reps. I really want to see his development. I want to see the tight ends too. I want to see Bushman. I want to see he looked pretty good on the opportunities he had this last game. I want to see what he's really made of with the Jody Fortson news. Unfortunately, he's most likely going to be. This might be the last we've seen him, like we talked about, and I think that's kind of word that's getting around. That might have been the last of Jody Fortson we've seen in a Chiefs uniform. So Bushman, this is his opportunity, to kind of get in the mix of these tight ends in this tight end room. He looks like he's got some wiggle. He looks like he's got some movement there. So I think he's got some promise in this second year in this system. I also want to, I think Felix looked good, and he's starting to silence the haters a little bit because I think he might have heard some of that shit. And
I hope he did.
He looked good, and I heard he's been looking even better this past week in practices and stuff and scrimmages. I heard he's been really playing really well and upping it. So he's out here maybe trying to really show people what he's capable of, and I would like to see maybe a play or two from him to kind of get after the quarterback. And he looked quick. A lot of people were talking about he looked slow leading into that game, and they weren't sure about him. But I think he went out there and kind of silenced a lot of that.
I agree.
He looked like a killer out there, man. And if him and George can become a duo, and then you get a Minahu back in the mix, this could be a really, really fun defensive line this year once we get Chris Jones back and settled. So I think those are the two guys I'm really paying attention to the most, was Bushman offensively and then Felix on the defensive side. Shamari Connor for sure. I was going to mention him. I want to see more of that. I loved what I saw out of him, man. It's such a hybrid-esque player, guy that can kind of move around and do everything. I think Mike Edwards was making plays, some breakup plays, some really good open field tackles from Mike Edwards. Man, the DBs in general looked great. You know what I mean? They got shredded a couple times. Derek Carr looked really good and sharp, I'm not going to lie. So that Saints team might be better than we even expect. Granted, it is preseason, but the ones kind of started out a little slow, but I don't think there was a lot of effort going on out there. I think we might see a little more tonight.
This team does not want to play preseason games.
Right. I try not to buy into anything in preseason because none of it really matters to me. I have to keep telling myself that. But as far as a talking point, the twos and the DBs and the twos and the linebackers and on the defensive line, a lot of those guys looked really good, making some big plays out there. I think those are the main guys I'd say I would be looking for. I want to see more out of Wanya. I want to see the development of him, and then Bushman, and then see if Felix maybe go out there and make a couple extra plays.
Well, we've made you guys wait now for about an hour. We like to get about an hour's worth of content out there and give you guys our opinions on a few topics before we get to you guys. But now we've covered everything that we feel we need to cover. Now it's time to get to you guys, your comments, your questions, your concerns, your takes, whatever you guys have. Fire them off, fire them away. It is time for Speak It. Trevor, what are the people saying today?
Yeah, so we got some statements and some questions. I do want to kind of just to circle back to the Chris Jones topic. Our guy John Harrison on Facebook commented. He said when I brought up the marketability of Chris Jones in comparison to Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes, he said, and I do think there is something to this too. He said I just saw a DirecTV commercial a few days ago with Kelce and Chris Jones, so he has some marketability. I want to kind of talk about that for a second. Like, what do we think that was? Not that Chris Jones is like a ball and out of nowhere in a commercial with Kelce. That's not crazy to us as Chiefs fans because we understand Chris Jones' personality is a very loud, big personality. So it makes sense for him to be in a commercial. But the fact that right now, the timing, are they trying to maybe kind of get Chris Jones some extra side money with some sponsorships or some endorsements on the side to kind of maybe work some things into where he can kind of get going on that side of things as well. Like with Travis Kelce, really trying to get him, introduce him into that. I don't know.
I'm somebody that does not believe in. I mean, coincidences can happen at times in life, but I think when it comes to situations like this, there are no coincidences.
Yeah.
This is all marketing, and marketing is not based on coincidence. Marketing is intentional.
Get some more exposure
and
to Chris Jones.
When I saw that, I'm glad John brought it up.
Yeah.
When I saw that commercial, and it's aired several times over since it's been out for a couple weeks now, it's clear and evident that is Travis Kelce, the marketing team for DirecTV, throwing Chris Jones a bone because they know he has been a focal point of this offseason for the entire NFL, because the more the Chiefs win and continue to dominate the league, the more relevant their star players are going to be. We've seen this throughout history. Troy Aikman, Emmitt Smith, Michael Irvin all got their careers the way they did because they were winning Super Bowls. Same with Tom Brady and all the guys. Same with all these other players that have won Super Bowls. Peyton Manning is who he is because of the success he had. That is why. And he also has incredible charisma.
Yeah.
Same with Travis Kelce. That's why he's going to have an even better career. As great as Travis Kelce is at football, he's going to be even better after he's done with football because of his charisma, his personality. He's handsome, things like that. Chris Jones, it's no coincidence the first real commercial we've ever seen this guy on at the national level happens to be during this offseason.
Yeah, with Travis Kelce.
Yeah, it's no coincidence. And I think it is definitely them throwing him a bone. But even with that, and as happy as I was for Chris, you're not going to see Chris on a ton of commercials. It's just not going to be the reality of the situation. But I do like the fact that he's out there spreading his wings a little bit. But Chris Jones will have to give the Chiefs a little credit here. The reason why he's on that commercial is because what? He's playing for a team that's winning Super Bowls, and he's contributing to
leverage.
That. So there is, in that regard, yes.
Yeah.
But I'm saying on the football field of things, Chris Jones has the leverage because he is such a valuable asset.
So good.
Yeah, I'm glad John brought that up because when I saw that, I go, I know what they're doing.
No, and it's funny because that's the first thing that came to my mind when I saw it. I was like, oh, Chris Jones. I was like, well, maybe they're trying to get this guy some extra side bag going on.
Yep.
Next first real question is from Brian Parrott, our guy Brian. What's up, man? Does Justin Reed survive another year like this? I'm guessing he means like last year's performance, underwhelming performance last year, because he reeks. I'm not the biggest Justin Reed fan.
Well, since he already blocked me on Twitter for just simply criticizing his head getting bounced off the field like a basketball in the Cincinnati game he talked shit about, I can speak freely about Justin Reed because he'll never know. I think Justin Reed at times has been a really good contributor for the team, but I think more times than not he's a guy that's been a replaceable player. I think that the Chiefs, because of the fact that we focus on L'Jarius Sneed and how the team's probably going to go away from him once the 2023 is over, based upon how many DBs they've drafted. Well, of those DBs, 3 of them were safeties. So Justin Reed, I think this is his final year of guaranteed money on that 3-year deal.
Yeah.
I think there is a chance this is the final year for Justin Reed. And I think I'd be okay with that because he'll be, 27, 28 years old at that time. The Chiefs are probably not going to work on a long-term deal with him after this season.
No.
So more than likely they either cut him, trade him, things like that can happen. And I'm more than okay with that because I think the Chiefs can get younger, cheaper, and better, quite frankly, at that position. Justin Reed doesn't suck.
He might already be there.
I don't necessarily agree with Brian on this one that he reeks.
Yeah.
I don't think he's terrible.
He's a high IQ guy.
He's a fine football player.
Yeah.
But I don't think him being the second highest played player on this defense makes a lot of sense because I don't think he's the second best defensive player on this team. And I would like to see, the Chiefs move forward. If it was my vote, I'd like to see them move forward and maybe go on with a safety that they draft in the 3rd or 4th round, or if they already haven't gotten that guy, Brian Cook, Chamari Connor moves over to the safety position. There's a lot of options they do have. But I do think there's a possibility he is not here in 2024.
Yeah, he was an immediate fill-in kind of guy for Tyrann Mathieu when that vacancy occurred. But he's yet to really be any kind of performer of that ilk or level. Obviously, we didn't expect that, but he hasn't really lived up to the expectations, if we're being honest, of a guy that came in, had really good film from Houston coming over here. And he's got some good – I'm not going to shit on him. I think he's been a solid player, but he hasn't been a guy that's like anything that pops off the screen, if we're being honest. I think Brian Cook's already kind of overtaken the highlight reel, and I think he has got way higher ceiling than he does at this point, and I think he's going to show that this season. Next question from Brian as well. How much is too much to pay MVS to play the second fiddle to guys making peanuts?
How much is too much? Well, I think he's making too much now.
Yeah,
I never agreed with the contract he got.
We could feel differently as the season goes on. He could have a really good year this year.
I'm not banking on it.
I'm not either.
I think MVS
more
is who
opportunity.
He is. When I remember, Troy, you and I talked about this when the Chiefs signed him. I'm like, I hope people are not expecting this guy to become something special. There were people who were expecting him to have 1,000+ yards last season. I thought that was nuts, guys. There was a time, and MVS's prime Rodgers in his prime years with Devontae Adams and nobody else, like Alan Lazard every once in a while. And he was putting up 430 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Yeah.
Like, you can't expect that guy, even though Patrick Mahomes is better than Aaron Rodgers, with all the other mouths to feed, you can't expect MVS to become something better. Now, he had a good season last year based upon his own expectations, based upon who he is, but that's about all he's going to be, is a guy that's going to get you at best 600, 650 yards, a couple touchdowns, and he's just a guy that burns and gets and stretches the defense. I think he's already making too much money. I think they overpaid him a little bit, and he's also a guy I'd like to see the Chiefs move off of after 2023. In fact, if they'd have moved off him this year, they'd have saved about $7.5 million, and I'd have been okay with that because he's not really a difference maker. I know he played well in the AFC Championship, and everybody loves to remind me of that. Yes, but it took like 3 or 4 injuries for wide receivers for him to even get that opportunity to do so, because of the fact there were about three or 4 other guys that Patrick Mahomes would rather throw the ball to, if we're being honest.
Yeah.
He played very well and give him his credit, but are we really banking on him doing that more than 1 or 2 times a season? I'm not.
I will say this, though, in defense of MVS, I think that the AFC title game against the Bengals was enough that made up for that money. I think his performance in that game was so good. He was the hero in the pass game in that game. Made big plays after big play, had really great catches in that game. Was the wide receiver one in the biggest game of the season up to that point.
And he made
against our against our only real rival. You know what I mean? And that game for me made all the money worth it.
The point I'm making though is I think you could get that performance out of a guy who's making $700,000 a year.
You might be right, but I'm saying for me that I was like, you know what? And in that moment, I didn't care, man.
Yeah, because
he was so good.
Because then what does he do? And I'm not trying to. I'm not trying to shit on MVS.
He was a dud the next
then he
game.
turned around in the Super Bowl and put up 0-0-0.
A dud, yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
No, I get it.
You know, and that's a game where Patrick Mahomes was going off. Like Patrick Mahomes had 1 incompletion in the second half, and it was a throwaway in the back of the end zone.
Like, it was one of those games. I mean, Sky Moore scored his only touchdown of the season.
Yeah.
You know, Kadarius Toney had a touchdown and one of the longest punt return in Super Bowl history. There was a lot of weird things that happened in that game, so obviously the dud was unacceptable. But I think that the DBs of Philly made it a thing to not let him beat them over the top. Right. And I think that's what and I think, you know what, listen, if a field stretcher gets a dud in a game, but yet he's pulling DBs and he's stretching the field and opening up things underneath, I'm fine with that because that's him playing his role. Yeah. But I don't think he's worth $1 million.
But at the money, yeah.
Right. But again, that Bengals game leading into the Super Bowl that got us to that point was huge enough for me to kind of soften the blow. This is more of a statement than it is a question, but Eric McKenzie on YouTube says this. I think it's according to the Chris Jones. Back to that topic. The Patriots are the only other franchise in the last 20 years to be a dynasty. You're right. But they have never ever let a defensive player hold out. They would just let them go.
Well, let me
some context.
Let me contextualize that. First of all, I'm gonna have to look back and see if that is actually true because we don't know that to be certain because we've seen the Patriots pay guys, Richard Seymour, Vince Wilfork, guys like that. We've seen them pay those guys. So let's not just assume they haven't done that. And there wasn't some sort of a holdout.
The market standard though at that time.
I don't know.
Really remember.
What I will say, remember, I brought this up last week. When it comes to the Patriots dynasty and the Chiefs budding dynasty.
Yeah.
Is that you can never compare the two and how they build their rosters because
different ways.
Yeah, that first Patriots dynasty was built upon a 6th round quarterback in Tom Brady who was making no money,
elite defense.
And you had a defensive minded head coach leading the way in an era where that was more of what teams were building and banking off of. Now you're playing with Andy Reid, an offensive-minded head coach with a $500 million quarterback. You can't build your rosters the same way. And look at the Patriots. You can allow great players to leave that system because Belichick's system is what made that defense great. It was just like we all talk about Andy Reid and how it's okay to trade Tyreek Hill because the system is what makes the offense great. It's Patrick Mahomes that makes this offense great. So you can, if the Patriots back then had Tyreek Hill and lost him, I don't think their offense would have been that good. You know what I mean? Like they would have struggled very much so from one year to the next. The Chiefs didn't because of the fact they have a system. They have Patrick Mahomes. So the teams are completely built differently. And I agree with Eric what he's saying, but he has to see it from a different side, a different viewpoint, that you don't build the teams the same way. So you can't adopt that exact same mentality of, oh, well, just let Chris Jones walk, or, oh, don't pay him what he's worth because we can be just fine. No, with Chris Jones, they had an average defense last season. They got to the quarterback better than anybody outside of the Eagles, but in totality, it was the 16th ranked defense. That is literally the definition of average. And that's with all-pro Chris Jones. So this defense absolutely needs Chris Jones because they didn't have him last year. This is a bottom 5 defense. Just like they were in 2018 with Chris Jones balling out. They had to change defensive coordinators. They had to go and get more skill set players. Brett Veach had to start knocking it out of the park in the draft. We noticed after 2018, which was his worst draft class, after 2018, Brett Veach started knocking it out of the park and getting good cornerbacks, getting good linebackers, things of that nature. It started to change on the defensive side. They started to get better. But they still got a long way to go, man. And letting Chris Jones walk or not valuing Chris Jones is not the way you would go about it. And I would even go as far as say this, Trevor. If Bill Belichick had Chris Jones, I don't think he lets him walk. Even though I think he'd be confident they'd be all right, Chris Jones is a special talent. And you don't just let guys like that walk in the prime of their careers. Because what Bill did do is he let guys go in their 30s. He wasn't letting 27-year-old Richard Seymour walk out the door. That's not how it worked.
Sure. I agree with you. Next question is from our guy James T. Kirk on YouTube. Question, in your honest opinion, Twidwells, do you agree with Andy in starting the first team until the second quarter?
Absolutely not. And I don't believe it's actually going to happen.
It very rarely ever pans out that way.
But I don't look, man, I've already said it today. I'm not going to overemphasize on it too much, but I just, preseason to me is, if you're going to keep it, if the NFL is going to keep preseason, use it just simply for the fringe players. And here's the thing. If you have a coaching staff that's worth a damn, you should be able to evaluate your team in practice and know what they're going to be and whether they're going to be guys that you need to have on this team or not. You don't need preseason football, meaningless games, exhibition games to know that or not know that. Yeah. That's how I've always felt about it. I'm going to continue to feel like that just because of the fact that I just don't think these games really tell you anything you didn't already know. And here's my other thing, Trevor, about preseason. If it's so valuable and it's so important, why is it that over the last 2 years, the NFL has added a regular season game, they've added 2 playoff teams, so you have more playoff football, more regular season football, but we've gotten rid of 1 preseason game. Like if it's important, why don't we have 4 preseason games anymore? They got 3, and they're talking about getting rid of 1 more. So I think they should just do away with preseason. I've always felt that way. I know a lot of people don't like that because we thirst and hunger for football so much. But be honest with me, guys. If you're watching, listen to this right now. When you're watching the preseason games and the stars aren't out there anymore, you're not really enjoying it. Let's be real. You're trying to power through it. That's what we all do, okay? Because it's not quality football at that point. You're watching fringe players. So, yes, James, I don't want them on the field at all. I don't agree with Andy's mentality. He knows this game better than I do, so I'll always give him that credit. My opinion, though, I think it's foolish.
If I'm being honest, I think the whole preseason entity itself is for money. All they are is overglorified scrimmages.
Yep, 100%.
These teams could both have a joint scrimmage and have the exact same result and do the exact same things and test out the exact same plays and get the exact same results from what they want to see out of certain guys with or without cameras on.
Right.
You know what I mean? So they fill these stadiums, partially fill these stadiums, with cheap tickets, but at the same time, these teams are these venues are making money on these games, and it just honestly, I've always kind of felt that indifferent about these preseason games as a over-glorified scrimmage because that's literally all they are. They're just broadcasted on national TV. That's literally all they are. That's how I feel about them. So next question is from our guy Brian Parrott. Again, it's on YouTube. FAU is the question. Picked basically where George Karlaftis was. Is he equal to or better than?
It's impossible to say right now, Brian.
He's better. No,
I would give George the credit just simply because we've seen him play a full NFL season, and George caught fire at the end of the season, that last half into the postseason. George was playing big man football, grown man football, and I think he's going to carry that into the season. I know Brian, I don't want to speak for Brian, but talking to him at Zarda Barbecue this week, I know that was something that he wanted to emphasize, that George was the first player that Brian really stepped out and said since Derek Thomas that this is a guy I think special.
George is a beast.
And he evaluated, and he was right. I think, Brian, you're 100% correct, and it wouldn't shock me at all if George plays better than FAU, quite frankly, because of the fact that FAU is a rookie, and most rookie edge rushers don't have great seasons, but also because of the fact I believe in George Karlaftis. I think this man's going to ball this season. I'm not saying he's going to have 15, 20 sacks, but it wouldn't shock me at all if George Karlaftis has 11, 12, because the fact he had 7, 6.5, 7 last year. I think he's going to build on that. I really do. So, yeah, man, I think that right now you got to give the edge to George.
Yeah, it's unfair to compare the two right now. I mean, one guy hasn't really played any real NFL football yet, and I think FAU has all the skill sets you need to, to get there. But George was a more highly touted guy, I believe, coming into the draft, coming from, in my mind, a better program, had incredible numbers in college, but I guess similar programs. But George has already shown. He came on later, about the midway point of last season and really started kind of to showcase what he's capable of. And I think that definitely carries over into this year. And I think at this point, it's pretty clear to say, easy to say, that George is the better player. We have a comment here from George Harrison. Everyone always praises Veach for drafting DBs, and rightfully so, but don't underestimate Dave Merritt and Spags for their coaching. Spags coached DBs for a long time in college and in the league. Obviously, they draft and develop young DBs. I love that, of course.
I have nothing to add to that.
Yeah, I've been a big Spags guy since he came over here. There was a lot of scrutiny about how well he would do here, but I've always liked Spags. As a head coach, maybe not the best, but as a defense coordinator and a guy that knows how to coach up DBs and defensive lines and get the guys in the right place in the right time, for sure. One of those key contributors to why this defense has definitely made a big turnaround. Let's see. Let's get into the question here. I think Mahomes just hates losing to Derek Carr preseason or not. Let's see. A lot of comments. I'm trying to get to some question marks here. Here we go. So Carlos Fierro, what's your prediction on Chiefs wins and losses?
How about this, Carlos? Tune in on September 2nd to the Spoken Podcast, and we will give you not only our Chiefs predictions, all predictions. We're talking every division winner, 1 through 4. We'll give you guys our playoff seeds, playoff predictions, Super Bowl predictions, Super Bowl winner, Super Bowl MVP, regular season MVP, offensive, defensive rookie of the years, offensive, defensive player of the years, coach of the year, everything you want, everything you need. It will be It'll be the 5th annual NFL prediction show for the Spoken Podcast. So we're not going to give you that today, Carlos. I know you tried. It was good. That was a good try. But September 2nd, tune into the show. You will get everything you need, my brother.
Gotcha. Next question is from James T. Kirk. Basketball question. James Harden, nuts or not?
Well, I don't know if you guys saw, but James Harden was last seen on that football field with that random interviewer guy coming up to him. He looked like he just got his ass beat, first of all. Like his shirt was all jacked up.
He's going full Kanye on
it looked like he was in a dystopian movie or something. I don't know what was going on with him. But, yeah, James is like all-class team trade me guy. Like he's so hard to understand. He's a very quirky individual to begin with. So those are guys that you don't really understand from just a wavelength perspective to begin with. But it's just also I think he's one of those guys. Him and like Kevin Durant and guys like that are very similar in the fact I just don't think that they're ever happy. There's never anything that can go because everything that James Harden's wanted in his career he's gotten. And what's so weird is this whole him calling out Daryl Morey and stuff, calling him a liar and things like that, when Daryl Morey for the last 8-9 years has done nothing but just serve James Harden with whatever he wanted. He wanted Dwight Howard in Houston 10 years ago. What happened? Went and got him Dwight Howard. He wanted out of Houston. Guess what? Got him out of Houston. Yeah. He wanted to go to Brooklyn. Guess what? Got him to go to Brooklyn. He wanted out of Brooklyn. Guess what? Went and traded for him when Daryl Morey took over for the Philadelphia 76ers and got him to Philadelphia.
I think he's the most unsuccessful player that has played with the most talent.
It's unreal.
Of all time.
He's one of the most talented players we've ever seen. And he is nothing short of an underachiever. It is wild.
The fact that he doesn't have a ring with all the rosters he's been a part of is wild.
I can't believe it, man. It's really crazy to think. And just now sitting here calling everybody else out. Like, this guy is the ultimate excuse maker. He blames everybody else but himself. He never, ever takes responsibility for his own shit. Yeah. And it's just such a turnoff, man. Because I've always wanted to embrace James Harden, but I've always felt like I can't ever wrap my arms around him because he's never just authentic. He's never just he never just humbles himself. It's always everybody else. It's
very
always
passive aggressive.
Yeah.
Him and KD both.
And to be honest, just at the core of that,
Kyrie as well.
From another grown man to a grown man, I don't respect that.
Yeah.
The passive aggressiveness stuff. Tell me how you feel. Give me the real, man, and go out there and win something. I hate to sound like freaking Mad Dog Russo right now, but maybe go try to win a championship. Yeah. And quit bitching at everybody else who's been literally trying to set you up for success. How about you adjust to the league? Because once the league started taking away your little swing move that you were getting 14, 15 free throw attempts on every single game, How about you adjust to the league, man, and start playing better basketball? He's actually a good point guard. I'll give him that. I think he led the league in assists 2 years ago.
His numbers at the end of his career, his numbers going to be up there with all the greats.
But it's never good enough. He doesn't play defense.
I mean, it's Westbrook as well.
Yeah, man.
You know what I mean? So another guy who's been a part of some incredible teams, with and without James Harden. But yeah, I feel like him, KD, Kyrie. Kyrie just tries to, I think, be kind of a triggering kind of guy, a guy that really just tries to push the envelope on certain things with lighting, burning the sage and shit around the stadium. I think just purposely kind of trying to be a weirdo sometimes. James Harden is in the like-minded kind of guy as well. I think they all try to just be like this overtly contrarian kind of person where they have to have like this odd mindset of how things work. And
that's the definition of woke.
Sometimes
if you guys
it's
really
okay
want
to
to
be
know the definition of woke. That's what that is.
But it's overt.
Yes.
It's like they want to make sure the cameras are on, so they're seeing them. Oh, I'm caught being like a unique individual. Like dude, you're not. It's so cringy, bro. To be honest with you. And then KD, obviously, with his burners and all that stuff, like that's been a thing. Very as confident as a guy you could be is one of the greatest to ever do it. You're showing your lack of confidence in a lot of ways. But yes, those guys overtly try to be like these contrarian-minded kind of guys. Like they're very, outside of the matrix. They're not a company man and all these things. It's like, bro, answer a yes or no question without having to go on a diatribe about how, you run on this cleanse and shit. I don't know. So yeah, James Harden is a strange cat. And the Daryl Morey putting him on the blast on public TV is just a bad look as a man in my mind. If you have an issue, go to the man himself behind closed doors. You don't need to publicly put it on blast. Honestly, it makes you look worse. It really does to a certain degree, especially for someone else. I mean, if you're everything you do as a public figure like that is your resume. So whoever's wanting to hire you next, are you going to do that to them? You know what I mean? So that's how they're going to look at it. So yeah, James Harden is a strange one, but one of the greatest to ever do it in my mind, talent wise. Okay, so Carlos, another question. Do you guys think Chris Jones is? Do you guys think once Chris Jones is signed, the Chiefs also sign Dunlap? Dunlap's one of the only few guys left out there.
I don't know if they correlate. I don't know if that's what's keeping Chris Jones or Carlos Dunlap from coming back.
Yeah.
As I stated on the show last week, I'll state it on this show as well. I think it's kind of like an unofficial retirement from Carlos Dunlap. He's kind of keeping his options open right now. I do believe that the Chiefs are at the top of Dunlap's list if, in fact, he wanted to continue to play football, and I definitely think that Dunlap is at the top of the Chiefs list. I think the only reason why it might correlate is because of the fact that it might take some convincing to get Dunlap out of this unofficial retirement, which means the Chiefs might have to pay him a couple million, which would correlate with Chris Jones' extension. So let's go ahead and play on that one. I do believe that Carlos Dunlap would come back even more confidently. Like I could say it more confidently if and when Chris Jones gets his extension, because I'm sure Carlos Dunlap would like to see that get done, for his fellow man, and probably make him feel more confident about that situation not getting ugly where he'd return and you don't have the big man in the middle. I think that that's something that you could entertain. But overall, I think that if Dunlap wants to play football, that's when we'll know whether he does or not. I think that's what it really comes down to, not Chris Jones' extension being done or not. I think it's just whether Dunlap wants to come back or he feels like he's done enough because, like I said, and he said last year he had some things he wanted to check off his list, and he got all of them checked off in 1 year in Kansas City. So if he wants to retire, I get it. I totally understand it. But if he wants to come back, I also get that, and I'd be more than happy to see him come back.
I ain't gonna lie, I ain't heard a damn thing about Dunlap coming back. I haven't really heard much about it. I know this is more of like a Chiefs fans talking point, in all the chats and threads. It's something that Chiefs fans want because he contributed, well last year and was a massive contributor to the defensive line with batted balls and sacks and blah, blah, blah. And he's just a solid guy all the way around. So why not? Why would we not want to have him back? But I think we need to stop and pause and think, does this guy even want to play football anymore? Right. Because there's been no circulation of him joining other teams, let alone the Chiefs. Or even playing football in general at all. So I would love to have him back. I think at this point we have no other real options. I don't know who else is out there with Jadeveon Clowney signing with the Ravens now too. Didn't want him either, but I mean that was one of the few guys left out there. But yeah, I think if we do sign or not sign Chris Jones to an extension, I would love to have Carlos back. Regardless if that extension gets done or not. Brian with another question. Who touches Mahomes' jersey first tonight?
Anybody that wants to catch these hands? Don't touch my quarterback in preseason football. Damn it! In regular season playoffs, If you can get a hold of him, go ahead and tag him up. Don't do it in preseason. This is the thing that worries me, Trevor, is that the Cardinals are a team full of guys that are trying to make a roster, that are desperate for an opportunity, and I really just hope that they don't put Patrick Mahomes in the line of fire. When Patrick Mahomes ran last week against the Saints, there were parts of my body that quivered that I don't want to admit, but it very much scared the shit out of me, and I just hope that this game, Patrick goes out there, just plays an efficient first drive, they score a touchdown, and that be it. Don't let him get hit. Get the ball out of his hands. Let the running backs run the ball, and just get this damn game over with. Please.
Yeah.
That's all I can say, man.
I agree with that. Go get Justin Ross another couple tutties and watch the internet light on fire. Next question from James Kirk. Final basketball question today, I promise. Yes, I'm a Clippers fan, and I understand you guys aren't, but which LA team – are we going to go here? Which LA team is more watchable, Clippers or the Lakers? Come on, man.
Wait, is that a serious question?
Come on.
I love our guy. I love our guy James
rhetoric?
T. Kirk, but let's be real, man. The one notable piece on the Clippers team doesn't even talk, and he barely ever plays. Like Tyronn Lue might be the most interesting thing of that team.
Hey,
and I love Tyronn Lue, but let's be real. Like Tyronn Lue is not a player. The Lakers have the greatest player who's ever played basketball. Sorry if that triggers you, but that's the truth. You also have Anthony Davis on this team. You also have guys like Reeves, the guys that are going to make notable, that are fun, guys that like people like watching. It's clear as day it's the Lakers. I don't even need to go into that one.
James followed that up with, we have 3 superstars, buddy. Listen.
Wait, what?
Westbrook is not a superstar anymore. That ship has sailed, for being honest. Westbrook had to bounce around from 5 different teams in the last 6-7 years. Like he's big. I respect him and I love him dearly, but he is not a superstar anymore. Kawhi and Paul George are rotational superstars. They don't even like to play together half the time. So it's not a question whether you guys have talent or not, for sure. But product-wise, who's more watchable? It's not even close.
Not even
LeBron
close.
and AD, bro. Shit, Austin Reeves, give me that. Austin Reeves he's him. You know what I mean? He's him.
With his country accent.
He's more fun. He's more fun to watch a lot of times, if I'm being honest, bro. It's just there's way more personality, way more flash and pizzazz on the Lakers side of things. That's not even. I'm not even a Lakers fan. I'm a LeBron fan, obviously. I'm a Sacramento Kings fan. You want to talk about product? The Kings are way more fun to watch than the Clippers. Stop it. Throw them out there too. Another Cali team. That's my guys. Brian Parrott had another question. Final score predictions for tonight's game. He said, "I'm going 84-10." That's mild.
You playing Madden tonight? What are you doing out here, James?
He threw the simulator on. He's like, "Oh shit."
No, I don't really know what the score will be. In fact, more than likely the Cardinals will probably win. I mean, they're going to be the team that's going to go out there and play harder than the Chiefs. The Chiefs are a team that's trying to get through the preseason, experimenting with some of these younger players. They're trying to fight over position battles. The Chiefs have bigger goals in mind than trying to win a damn preseason game. I know that people love to give Josh McDaniels all this credit because he's like 5-0 in his last 5 preseason games. Congratulations.
Who gives a shit?
I hope you guys win the preseason Super Bowl, man. The Chiefs have bigger fish to fry, and that fish is the Lombardi Trophy. So I'm not worried about that. I will, if I want to give you a score, I'll give you a score. I think it's going to be give me the Cardinals 24-20. I think that they'll probably win the game 24-20.
Chiefs 30-21. I think the Chiefs are going to go out there and put up points. I think Bushell's going to go throw a couple tutties. My
nice.
boy.
I mean, I hope you're right.
My boy Shane.
It's not like I'm hoping the Chiefs lose the game. I just think the Cardinals are going to play harder.
Yeah, they got more to play for sure. They got to go prove it. They got to go prove it for everybody because it's going to be a long season for them.
Can you imagine being a Cardinals fan right now?
Yeah, man, I know some. Sorry. I think that is all the questions we have. I have a question myself, though, for the show if we want to.
Fire away.
I know we heard the comments about Patrick Mahomes wanting to have some more plays with his legs. I don't know if you saw that comment about Patrick Mahomes saying, I haven't been stopped yet. You know, he wants Andy Reid to draw up some more plays for his legs, like some designed runs for Pat, and even went as far as to bring back the QB sneak. You know, so I love it. I love the idea of that. I know you probably don't. That's why I was wanting to, maybe we can have some contrast here and what you thought. So I kind of want to get your thoughts on, the idea of Pat maybe having some design runs and bringing the QB sneak back after that horrendous, scary moment.
Look, as much as I am against and oppose Patrick Mahomes running and scrambling and doing all those things with his body in meaningless games, I equally love it in games that matter. Because if we're being real here,
shit on one leg.
The majority of his greatest plays are when he's either running or scrambling. Like, we can go down the list, man, of all the greatest plays of Patrick Mahomes' career, and most of them are him doing a Tom Cruise impersonation, like he's running. That's what he does. And as long as he's a mobile quarterback, I hope he keeps doing that, because that adds that extra dimension of unstoppability in his repertoire. It makes him unstoppable, because you want to make him into a pocket passer. He murders you in the pocket. Oh, you start getting pressure on him. Oh, he runs for 26 yards and makes the play of the Super Bowl with his one leg that was even healthy. So, yeah, I'm all for him doing that. The quarterback sneak thing, the reason why it's such a no-no is because the fact the man did suffer was almost a potential season-ending injury, and it makes the Chiefs nervous, and I get why they're doing that, which I have been in support of, them not doing the quarterback sneak with him. However, this Blake Bell experiment thing is now done with. Michael Burton's not on the team anymore. You don't do that anymore.
Teams are catching on to that play.
So here's my suggestion. It's a very simple suggestion. Take the Taysom Hill, Drew Brees effect. Have Blaine Gabbert, who is 6'5", 235 pounds, go out there and do the quarterback sneak and then put Patrick Mahomes back on the field when you get it. Or don't do the quarterback sneak and utilize one of these fast-ass pass receivers and do a jet sweep or a quick dink and dunk real quick and get a first down. Like, the Chiefs are the best offense in the NFL, correct? Mm-hmm. Going into this from last season to this season. They are the best, most creative offense in the NFL. You can create snow globe plays, but you can't get a 4th and 1. Like, they should be able to do this thing. And we saw in the Saints game, the entire Saints defensive line was shifted over to the right side, which means the Chiefs should have easily just ran it over to the left and gotten the first down, and we wouldn't be talking about this. But because of the fact they can't get out of their own way with the Blake Bell experiment, the Belldozer play, get Blaine Gabbert in there as a veteran quarterback. Have him do the sneak, and then put Patrick back on the field. If you don't want to put Patrick Mahomes in that situation, or utilize one of your plays and get a freaking yard. It should not be this difficult, but for whatever reason, it feels like a 4th and 12 is more easily converted for the Chiefs than a 4th and inches.
Statistically proven.
It's
at this point.
weird. Like, the Chiefs can have a full 10 yards to go on a 4th and 10. They can get that better than they get a 4th and inches.
That just shows you the magic of Mahomes and being able to find people. Yeah,
those are my suggestions.
Yeah.
Bring in Blaine Gabbert for a sneak, put back Patrick Mahomes after you get it, or have Patrick Mahomes throw the damn ball to a guy.
I'm of the mind that what happened to Pat a few years back was such a freak thing. I've never seen anything like that. Very rarely do you ever see QBs really get hurt on QB sneaks. Tom Brady did it his whole career, never got hurt on a sneak, was one of the best at doing that.
Yeah, he was great at it.
I think we have the O-line that's capable of being very successful, especially if we take the Eagles strategy with the butt push and all that. Until that's illegal, I think we can incorporate that. I have no problem with Patrick Mahomes doing some QB sneaks, especially with us struggling at with the running back that can get the short yardage. Pacheco kind of started to gain some traction on that with the short yardage. I think he's a guy that can do that moving forward. But I have no problem with the QB sneak. I think it's always been a very effective thing. It works a lot more than it doesn't statistically. So I think if we need inches or need a yard, I'm all for the QB sneak, and I'm all for drawn up running plays for Pat, bro. People sleep on the sauce that guy has with his feet. He's got that scoot to him.
Oh yeah.
So I would love a design run every once in a while.
If you're not respecting Patrick's legs by now, you haven't been watching the NFL.
But at the same time, the unscripted ones are the best ones and the most impactful ones because no one's expecting it. You know what I mean? So a design run isn't my favorite. I wouldn't mind seeing it every once in a while. I'd rather see a behind-the-back pass, if I'm being honest. But I like the idea of some QB sneaks getting thrown back in there every once in a while. I think Pat is saying it for a reason. I think Pat's confident to do that. That's probably behind the scenes. He's probably been up Andy Reid's ass about it. I'm sure he has, wanting to get some more footwork stuff done and getting some QB sneaks going in because we have, man. It's been a struggle getting the short yardage stuff. And that's annoying as hell, being one of the best offense, if not the best offense over the last 4 or 5 years, and struggling when it comes to the most simplistic thing in football is getting a yard or inches to move the sticks to keep a drive alive. Having a drive stall with that when you have the offense that we have is unacceptable.
Right.
So anything we got to do, whether it's QB sneak or a design run for Pat or some kind of, run option kind of toss play for Pat. I would love to see some new stuff, kind of stuff we did with Alex Smith a little bit to kind of incorporate and change things up and get opposing defenses as something else to think about when it comes to this dreadful matchup for them. So yeah, I would be all for that. I think we had another question here from we had one more comment, or no, we had one more question here from our guy Ruben. Just got in the chat. What's up, man? Ruben DeCruz. He said, Guys, what's up with Snead? Is the knee worse than we are letting on? This has been an ongoing conversation for
Ruben,
months.
I'm going to be honest with you, man. Yeah, I'm worried. I'm very much worried because of the fact that this isn't just something that they've been dealing with at training camp and in the preseason. This has been something that predates that. This has been going back all the way to, I think, June. Andy Reid was talking about this back in June, during OTA times and things like that, where the Chiefs just did not have L'Jarius Sneed available. They've been drawing fluid from his knee. He's been swelling up. It's a legitimate concern. I don't know if it's something that's going to keep him from playing all season, but if it keeps him out for the first month, I mean, I'll be real with you, it wouldn't shock me. Because that's the way it's looking right now. If it's been this long, if it was for a week, I'm not going to sit here and say, I'm worried that L'Jarius Sneed's not going to play for a while. No, this has been going on for about 3 months now. And that's something that you got to pay close attention to because this is also and there's obviously no reason for L'Jarius to sit out because, one, he's fighting for a position at this point, and two, he's also fighting for a contract. This is a contract year for L'Jarius. He's trying to get paid, whether it's here in Kansas City or elsewhere. So we know that L'Jarius Sneed, if he can get an opportunity to be on the field, he's going to do it and he's going to play his best. That's not happening right now. So I am worried, Ruben, and I hope that he comes out there and plays well and plays healthy so we're no longer worried about it. But until then, man, I have the right to reserve that worry.
Yeah, appreciate the question, Ruben. We got some. I'm not going to lie. I'm a little distracted by some of these the side conversations that are going on our chat. Well, first of all, I want to thank everybody who's in the chat today, right now, with Brian and James and everybody, supporting the channel, telling everybody to like the video and subscribing. I appreciate all the love, guys. Definitely appreciate that. Unfortunately, I'm just gonna put this on the screen real quick. Unfortunately, Brian Parrott said, "Damn it, I burnt my casserole all to hell." Sorry for distracting you while you're cooking your casserole, Brian. And then James says, "Not the casserole." These comments. Sorry, man. I had to throw it on here. It was distracting me. I was over here trying not to die. We got our people in here burning casseroles.
Not the casserole.
So yeah. So that was
Brian. You can't, dude. You can't. You better not be blaming us either, dude, because we didn't even know you were cooking a casserole today. If I'd have known that, we'd have put the show on pause. You finish your casserole and come back, man. You just left us on pause, dude. But I'm sorry that happened.
Oh,
hopefully you
man.
don't burn anything next week, dude, because we got some big shows coming up, man. And if how about this? How about you start cooking the casseroles before or after the show? Because that way, like I said, you can really just hone in on one thing at a time. It's priorities here, man. But we appreciate you for watching us even through a burnt casserole, dude.
Oh, man. I do want to throw one more, just to reel it back in a little bit. I want to throw more John Harrison. John, thank you, man, for contributing today. Your information, your comments are always definitely a good contribution to the show. He said the Chiefs last year on third down, between 1 and 3 yards, they were 51.5%, 4 and 9 yards, 50%, 10-plus yards, 42%. That's crazy. I mean, that's wild, man.
Great stat there, Johnny.
Yeah,
I appreciate
it's
that,
unacceptable,
man.
though, bro. Honestly,
that is.
Between 1 and 3 yards, we're only 51.5%.
Yeah,
that should be in the 70s, 80s, bro. With this offense, that's.
But you add anywhere from 1 to 6 more yards, and it's still it's essentially the same percentage.
Yeah,
No
between
way.
4 and 9 and 10+ yards, being 50% and 40. That's got to be the league's best.
Oh, I guarantee you the
10+
42% for the 10 yards is the best. I guarantee you
third
that's
and
the
10
best.
plus, 40, we're converting 42%.
Makes no sense, man.
That's got to be a league best, man.
The Chiefs this year on third and shorts and fourth and shorts need to be at least 60-70%.
It's got to be in the
no
70s.
reason in the world, man. It's 51%. That's stupid.
Yeah, thank you for that, John.
Yeah, great stat, Johnny. We appreciate you, brother.
Next question, though, we got one more from James T. Kirk. Tyreek Hill, is he annoying to you? I've told you guys before he was turning into a me guy.
Well, as I think his name has turned from Tyreek Hill to Tyreek Heel because he's definitely turned heel. I don't know how this is really benefiting Tyreek because the fact this man had if he would have left Kansas City and just said, hey, look, I did this for my family, like he said in his initial press conferences. He loved Kansas City. He loved his time here, but he wanted to go to greener pastures in his eyes because green equals money. And he wanted to make better money. We all supported that. Remember, we all said from the beginning, hey, man, go get your bag. The Dolphins are willing to pay you better money than the Chiefs are. You've already won your ring. You're on your way to the Hall of Fame. Congratulations. We thank you for your time here in Kansas City. If it would have just been like that, he's in the Ring of Honor. He's banging the drum when he's retired. There's no bad blood or ill will going on with Kansas City and him, and he's just an embraced and loved and adored superhero here in Kansas City because he's the greatest receiver the Chiefs have ever had. And it may not be close when it's all said and done. The problem is he's done everything in the opposite direction. He's talked shit. He's trolled. He's even come at me a couple times on Twitter when I've said some things about him, about how I'm sick and tired of listening to him talk about these things. Because, again, it's not benefiting him. And if anything, what it's making him look like is the bitter and scorned ex.
For sure.
That he didn't
100%.
we all know this now. Tyreek Hill wanted to be the superstar in Kansas City. And he knew as long as Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, and Travis Kelce were here, he was never going to be that guy.
We won, bro. We won.
And then that's the problem, is that Tyreek Hill wanted to be the guy. He wanted to make his money, he wanted to win, and he wanted to continue to win while also being the face. He was never going to be that here in Kansas City. So now he's bitter because the Chiefs just won a Super Bowl without him, which makes him look less valuable and less great, which I don't believe is the case. It's just that Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid and the Chiefs are so great at what they do that you can afford to lose a Tyreek Hill and still win. It doesn't mean he's not as great as he was that we thought he was 2 years ago. Right. It just means that the team was able to overcome his absence. And instead of just seeing it that way, he continues to lean into this troll job that he's doing, which, again, does him no good.
Is this podcast still going or no?
It needed to be said. If it is, I don't know.
I don't know if anybody knows it is. I haven't heard any. There's been no clips, I think, circulating or anything, so I don't even know if that podcast is still going.
I saw him do that one episode with Michael Vick a little bit ago, and I think he did one other show after that. But I think during football season, he doesn't do it.
Right.
So,
but I mean, even during the offseason, I haven't seen much. You know what I mean? So
I think after he burned through his material of talking shit on the Chiefs, he kind of ran out of things to say.
Well, yeah, and it didn't need to be said. Going on to win a Super Bowl,
ironically,
kind of puts a lot of that to bed. James followed that up with, we all defended him through all of his shenanigans, but look how he repays that sad person.
Can't agree more, man. Again, it was so
it's a
unnecessary.
Separate issue, but
I'm saying it was so unnecessary.
Sure,
like I said, it did his legacy no good.
Sure.
And then saying that, first of all, it was the dumbest shit ever when he said that he's going to retire as a Dolphin or go into the Hall of Fame as a Dolphin.
You don't unnecessary.
But you don't go into the Hall of Fame with a team,
right? Yeah.
You don't,
and you do represent the teams you played for,
right? And what I think what he's trying to say is he wants to retire a Dolphin, like as in that's the team. I'm not going to sign a 1 year or 1 day deal with the Chiefs.
He doesn't want to be in the Ring of Honor or something like that. If we ask him,
well, okay, then you wasted 6 years here in Kansas City, then, because you built a legacy here, man.
Not like, the Chiefs didn't make you or anything. Andy Reid didn't make you into what you are today,
and stand by you when shit was going down in your personal life, like all kinds of stuff, man. Like he could easily just said, "I appreciate," because he always talks about how much he loves Big Red.
Yeah.
But then in the same breath, we'll go and talk the shit you talk about this franchise. It makes no sense, man. This is the team that gave you an opportunity in the 5th round when they didn't have to do that. They took heat from the media here in Kansas City. Yeah. I remember when Bob Fesco was sitting here going, "Hey, Andy and John Dorsey, why don't you come to my house and explain to my daughters why you drafted this guy?" And then, ends up supporting him full-fledged. It's hilarious.
Yeah.
They took the heat. Trust me, man.
Yeah.
For you.
Touchdowns and wins change everything. I think he's a good. I think he obviously, as a football player and an athlete, he's stellar. But I think he's really starting to show his true colors to who he is and what kind of person he really is. And it's a questionable character of what he's really been displaying, especially even in his personal life with that yacht situation. That guy probably would have destroyed him, if I'm being honest. That was a big fella. But yeah. Anyways, off of that topic, we have no more questions as far as I see, but I do want to say thank you to everybody that has contributed. Once again, you guys are awesome. Tell your friends. Bring a friend with you next time when you come into this chat. And always like and subscribe to the channel while you're at it. So I appreciate you guys, man. It's been a great segment.
And do not burn your casserole when you're watching our show.
Yeah, breakfast casserole.
Oh, especially a breakfast casserole.
Yeah, what is it, like a quiche? What is that? That's so sad.
Now I
Brian.
feel really bad, Brian. We have to just send you a casserole.
Well, now I know Brian makes. He says it's his forte. Now Brian, now I know. Now I know if we ever meet up, and we have some kind of party.
Breakfast freaking casserole.
Breakfast casserole
and even if it's
Brian.
Burnt, I'm still eating that shit. I'm just letting you know, man, because it sounds good. So
I will destroy that.
And I'm going to echo Trevor's sentiments. Dude, guys, we really do appreciate y'all. The Speak It segment is quickly and rapidly becoming the most popular segment of our show. And we will always and continue to do it as long as you guys want to continue to do this. And we love hearing from you guys. That is what what the Spoken was started for, was to get you guys to have a voice, a platform, an opportunity to speak your minds. Not so much just listen to the talking heads. We are just simply a representation of fans. Trevor and I do not claim to be anything. We just have a podcast, we have a show, and we open it up for you guys. You guys are us, we are you, and that's what we love to do, and we will continue to do so as long as you guys love doing it.
We got a comment, just to throw in comment here for the last second, from Chiefs fan in Colorado on YouTube. Appreciate everything you guys do. Keep the kingdom informed. Love that, man. From Colorado. That's awesome. course, man. This week we take time out on every Saturday, and we're going to be doing 2 shows a week as the season starts. So we'll be doing Saturday show and a Sunday post-game show. So keep that in mind as well. But, yeah, I appreciate the love, man, coming from all over the place, all the way out in Colorado now as well. We want a community. That's what we want here. That's what we want to do. We want to create a community of Chiefs fans, with having discourse, healthy conversations, healthy debates.
Yeah.
No toxicity. But, if you're a toxic person, be yourself. You are allowed as well. But, yeah, man, it's all love, man. We appreciate it for sure. We appreciate the interaction. That's what we love the most about this show.
Thank you guys very much. Trevor, we have one more order of business to get to. What is it called?
Hold this L.
Each and every episode, we finish up each and every episode with a series of L's in the world of sports, whether those L's are friendly or not so friendly L's in the world of sports. We promise you, whoever is holding the L's in the world of sports deserve those L's in the world of sports. Trevor Twidwell, who's holding the L for you this week?
So we are a big fan of this guy. He goes by the name of Colin Cowherd. Me and you both love this guy to death. He's one of the best. I think he might be the best in the world at doing this. I think him and Nick Wright too are the 2 best in my mind as far as like creating segments, creating like tiers and rankings and talking points and things that can create debate, can spark debate, can spark arguments and amongst the fans, amongst the people. And this is exactly what he's doing, and here I am, right? But he likes to put out lists damn near every week, on his weekly show, his daily show, and he always has rankings as far as going into the football season. And he recently had QB and wide receiver duos rankings, top 10 in the NFL today. And I'll start from the bottom at 10. At the bottom at 10, he had Jared Goff, Amon-Ra St. Brown, which is an incredible duo last year. And I fully expect them to be that and more this next season. Tua Tagovailoa and Tyreek Hill, obviously a very dynamic. You can easily throw Jalen Waddle in there as well, who was arguably almost just as good as Tyreek Hill was last year. That's a trio right there,
yes,
if anything.
Yes, it is.
Dynamic. Number 8 is Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb. Absolutely. I love them. They're incredible together. CeeDee Lamb has brought a whole new dynamic to that offense. I expect the Cowboys to be really good this year. Kirk Cousins, Justin Jefferson. I mean, offensive player of the year, best wide receiver in the league right now, Justin Jefferson. And Kirk Cousins is probably the most slept-on quarterback in the league. He's a guy that's in the top 6, 7, 8 every year as far as yards, touchdowns, percentage, everything. Mm-hmm. You throw out the stats, and he's up there in every year. So I fully agree with that. Number 6, Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs. I would argue that Kirk Cousins and Justin Jefferson are better than them, but that's my personal opinion.
Really?
Yeah, I think so. As far as like what the numbers are between the 2 of them alone, I think they're better. Obviously, Justin Jefferson's numbers were better than Stephon Diggs. Kirk Cousins obviously not the better quarterback, but number 6 is Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs. Number 5, Derek Carr and Chris Olave, who is above Josh Allen and Kirk Cousins.
This is when it starts to get really
This is when it gets hairy, man. This is strange. So number 5, Derek Carr, an unproven quarterback, right? At the unproven quarterback as far as in this system, it's a whole new scenery for him. Chris Olave, who I think is a budding star, could possibly become a superstar in this league. Who arguably should have won Offensive Rookie of the Year last year. Lost out to Garrett Wilson, who I think was just as good an argument as well. So with that, the following one, and number 4, is Aaron Rodgers and Garrett Wilson, who I love this year. Anytime Aaron Rodgers has a number 1 guy that he goes to frequently, Garrett Wilson's going to probably have incredible numbers this season, once again. And then we get to number 3 on the list in the top 10. And that's Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce, who has been the most consistent quarterback to any kind of weapon. I know this is quarterback to wide receiver duo, because Travis Kelce is basically a wide receiver. And they're sitting behind Trevor Lawrence, and I love Trevor Lawrence, sitting behind Trevor Lawrence and Calvin Ridley, who just joined the team, hasn't played a single NFL real game actionable snap with Trevor Lawrence yet.
Or hasn't played a snap in the NFL since week 5 of 2021.
Right. And the thing that bothers me the most about this, and number 1, I'm just going to throw it out there. Number 1 is Joe Burrow, and I don't have a problem with this. Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. That is an elite duo, 100%. Jamar Chase, I think, has the number 1 receiver in the league starting this season. I think Jamar Chase is an incredible talent. has everything you need in a receiver, for sure. And Joe Burrow is an absolutely elite quarterback and an elite thrower of the football.
Yep.
I have no problem with if you want to put them number one, I have no problem with that. I really don't. But having Trevor Lawrence and Calvin Ridley was the one that bugged me the most over Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce, who, if everyone on this list has proven to be the most, over the past 5 seasons, has proven to be the most consistent year in, year out duo. Quarterback to weapon. I'm going to say weapon because he's not a wide receiver. Duo. And you have guys, Calvin Ridley, who, like you said, has been off for over a year, hasn't played real football for damn near 2 years, a year and a half or 2 years. And then Trevor Lawrence, who's a guy who's still proving himself in this league. Granted, I think he proved himself last year. I think he's going to grow on that. But the fact that this ranking is called Colin Cowherd's top 10 QB and wide receiver duos in the NFL today.
Receiving duos, yeah.
Yeah, that means
passing duos.
That means, well, it says wide receiver, but that means in the NFL today is how it's stated. So right now, this is not what he thinks is going to be this season. This is in the NFL today who he thinks is the best duos. I mean, I don't even need to break down all the numbers, and this is not a homer take for me, the fact that I have a problem. I think there's more than just the Patrick Mahomes Kelce ranking issue. The fact that you have Aaron Rodgers 2 spots above Kirk Cousins and Justin Jefferson and Derek Carr, or Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs. Those guys are lower than that. That doesn't make too much sense to me either. But I love Colin. I think he's one of the most respectable and maybe arguably the best in the business of what he does. But man, he likes to get a lot of things wrong a lot of times, and these are always fun to revisit, and we will be revisiting these, and there's no real need to revisit these things because we have the entire body of work between Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce that defeats this whole graphic. No one on this graphic. They should obviously be number one, just because of the track record they have year in and year out, that there's no reason to debate and doubt what's going to happen this year. As far as catches and yards go between him and Travis Kelce, it's not even close.
Their duo is up there with Brady and Gronk,
Rice and Montana,
Manning and Harrison.
Yep.
This is one of the greatest duos, if not the greatest duo of all time. You got him at third.
Travis Kelce's postseason numbers alone.
That's what I'm saying.
We're up there, all the best receivers of all time.
Only Jerry Rice has more receptions, yards, and touchdowns in playoff history than Travis Kelce.
Yeah, so my guy Colin, he got this one wrong, man. There's a lot of things wrong on this, but obviously the glaring one to me was the Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce being the third best duo. I think he seems like he's banking on Travis Kelce to take a step back for some reason.
Even if he does.
But do we know? Okay, just a side tangent real quick. Travis Kelce has not really shown the speed isn't there as much as it was when he's not as burst. He doesn't have the burst and the speed, but he's never really relied on his speed a lot. Travis Kelce, he's always had that wiggle and that athleticism to make guys miss, and he's very good at finding the open spots in the field. Who also was great at that was a guy named Tony Gonzalez, who retired at the top of his game. Tony Gonzalez retired, and he still had elite numbers when he retired. He was still putting up great numbers. He was, 38 when he retired?
Yeah.
So Travis Kelce's 34. If you're telling me 4 more years he can't be putting up similar numbers that Tony G was with a much better quarterback throwing him the football and a much better offense with a much better head coach.
I mean, Matt Ryan was really good back then. They had Roddy White and Julio Jones in his
But compare that to Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes.
I agree.
You know what I mean? And then the volume
Tony
that he
had
gets.
a really good situation.
That's of course. Yeah. And he was putting up good numbers because he was in a good situation. He was he took care of himself. Yeah, similar to Travis Kelce. So assuming that Travis Kelce is just going to all of a sudden just fall off the planet is silly to me.
I don't think that's what Colin based it off of. I think there was some intention.
I feel like there's a little bit of that in there.
I think there was a little bit of trolling in all this too to get the clicks in. You know what I mean? Because let's be honest, Fox Sports
having Trevor Lawrence that high.
FS1's been kind of struggling of late with some shows missing and things like that. Maybe Colin was trying to give him a little kick and it worked.
Oh yeah, if anybody's going to do it, it's going to be.
Well, and how many duos did he have in this list that have never even played together?
That's why
Trevor Lawrence and Calvin Ridley,
bothers me the most.
Derek Carr and Chris Olave being top 5. Like, I can entertain the Aaron Rodgers, Garrett Wilson one thing because Garrett Wilson won Offensive Rookie of the Year with the worst quarterback situation in the NFL last season. And Aaron Rodgers is one of the 10 best quarterbacks in the league.
And if we're being honest, Jared Goff and Amon-Ra already proven that they can have incredible numbers. They should be above Trevor Lawrence and Calvin Ridley.
I put my list out there. I'm not going to go through my list to steal the thunder here. I put my list out there at Lance Has Spoken. You can find it on my X page. In response to Collins, I definitely think my list is way better than Collins. You can look at it yourself if you want to see it. But yeah, that list was abysmal, man.
Yeah, whether trying to get clicks or trying to get eyeballs or not, the disrespect is real. So I couldn't let that one slide. So for that, Colin, do me a solid favor, buddy, and
hold this L. I don't like to talk about Chiefsaholic. I don't. Mostly because of the fact that I don't find his story as intriguing as others do. I know it's an interesting story because this guy was robbing banks and going to Chiefs games and acting like he's living this lavish lifestyle.
You already know there's going to be a movie about this.
You know what it is. I mean, they're already doing a Netflix series, and our guy Shaggy Shane's been already called about it.
Oh wow!
So there's going to be a Netflix series. There's going to be all kinds of shit. There's going to be a movie, and I get it, and I know that part of it's cool. But guys, like, if we're being honest here, like, this guy is a loser, and I'm just gonna say he's a loser. He's not a hero. He's not cool. The guy's an absolute loser who is putting guns to people's heads.
Yeah, there's no reason to glorify
he's a
that.
criminal. And this is scumbag shit this man's been doing. He got out on bail, cut his ankle thing, and was still robbing banks. Like, this guy has a real problem and needs to go to prison for a very long time, and he will go to prison for a very long time, even despite what his attorney, Matthew Merriman, was trying to articulate in this conversation. This guy is as wacky as Chiefsaholic himself, whose real name is Xavier Bobador. I think his name is Bobadar, whatever his name is. This is his actual representation and what he said this week in response to what he's going to do for his client.
This is not Chiefsaholic's last drive. And he believes, and we believe, that when the final whistle blows and all of the facts are known, that he is going to be redeemed in the eyes of his community, in the eyes of his fans, and in the eyes of the Chiefs' kingdom. This is not.
What the fuck? All right.
That is a paid attorney that, first of all, addressed his client as his fan name.
Paid him bank money for sure.
He called him Chiefsaholic in this opening statement, and then addressed his fans and Chiefs Kingdom. This simulation we're living in, man, is a wild one, because this dude isn't even calling his client by his real adult name.
It's a Christian name.
He's calling him by his Twitter name. And then calling the last this is the last drive of.
Unfortunately, this is going to make him that much more of a legend.
I know.
Yeah, the lore is going to live on.
They're making this into an actual. It's like a joke now. Meanwhile,
let's
bring some reality to this situation, because I guess we got to be the adults in the room. There are people right now that are probably going to suffer from PTSD for the rest of their lives because of this asshole. Because this dude brought a gun and put it in the back of people's heads, threatened people's lives.
Yep.
It's kind of a real fucking deal. So I know we all like to joke about it and kid about it. There are families right now in these areas that are suffering and may never go back to the workforce because of it, because they're terrified of that shit happening to them again. So I know it's funny to some of us that are far away from it or really up close to the wolf outfit he used to wear out to the Arrowhead Stadium, but this shit is not a laughing matter. And the fact this guy is his representation, his legal representation, I hope they throw the book at this dude. And I hope this attorney guy never gets another gig, because this guy's a clown. And I hope that dude goes to prison for the rest of his life, because that threatening people's lives with weapons is not something that should ever be taken lightly. I hope this dude doesn't get out. I hope this dude has to serve a life sentence there. It won't happen, but he's gonna be there for a very long time. I'm saying I'm no legal expert here, but it's gonna be 20 years minimum. And I know he's like late 20s right now, but this stuff's an absolute joke. I've tried not to talk about it. I've tried to keep away from it. But after seeing this legal representation call him by Chiefsaholic and try to make him sound as if he's some sort of fucking victim, when he's made nothing but victims, stealing money, putting people's lives at risk, there's no defending that, and there's no joke about that. So I get it's intriguing to a lot of people and things like that. I think it's an absolute absurdity. I think the dude's an absolute laughingstock, and not a funny way. It's a shameful way of going about your life. I know he was probably raised terribly. It makes a lot of sense if that's the case. But the fact is, this attorney, this whole situation can do me a favor and hold this L. Appreciate it.
Jeez, bro, I didn't
do not represent my freaking team.
That's wild, man.
Do not want that.
Netflix.
I want nothing to do with it, and neither should you guys, to be honest with you.
Netflix is really doing that?
Maybe possibly. It's not Netflix. It is. It's a network. I know that. We'll find out in due time what the details are and all of it. But yeah,
that's wild.
It's looking like it, man. So, you know what else is wild? How awesome the show was. And I appreciate all you guys. You guys made it fun. Trevor and I have fun every single week.
230 episodes. So
230 episodes, man. We like I tell you guys every single week, we would not do it without you. We could not do it without because it'd be boring as hell. Like Trevor and I just might as well just have our normal conversations, not even have to do a show, but you guys make it fun. And every single week we get so much feedback on the show, on Facebook, on our X account, everywhere, man. And even in person, like when we're at stores and stuff, I get people to talk to me about the show, and they come up and say they like it. Like I said, Zarda, there's some awesome people there. We love that, man. It's a community. It's community-driven, and it's going to continue to stay that way. And we hope you guys stick around and do not burn your castle in the process.
Come on,
so for that, for Trevor Twidwell, for the great Clay Winther that puts all this together on the back end of things, I'm Lance Twidwell. Episode 230 of the Spoken Podcast is done, finished, and finito. And until we're back here in 1 week's time to talk about the Chiefs getting 1 inch closer and 1 week closer to the regular season, we out of this bitch.
Later.